The future of Xbox has become a bit confusing as recent rumors and insiders are claiming huge first-party titles are coming to PlayStation. Now, we covered Starfield by itself because that felt like its own story, especially considering we broke that story 3 weeks ago on January the 5th. But now the developing story is that Phil Spencer will be doing a business meeting likely before DICE gets underway, and Xbox fans are now clamoring around claims that good news is coming and that we should not believe everything that we've read. Lots of speculation in recent days about how Xbox will handle putting first-party games on PlayStation, what that means for hardware, as well as the customers who have stayed so loyal for so long. I have my own thoughts about what Phil Spencer will likely say next week, and it seems to line up with other predictions that I'm seeing out there. But there is a pretty wide array of thoughts on this. Now, I put all the good information right here at the beginning of the video. It is a longer video because it's a live stream, and we do these Monday through Friday. So if you don't want to miss out on these live stream discussions, hit subscribe and the bell button so you don't miss the content. But I open with the monologue, so if you want to know what I think, I'm about to tell you. A lot of questions now surround the future of Xbox, with a flood of rumors and insiders claiming that virtually any major first-party Xbox title is being considered for PlayStation. Many fans are left wondering where the brand and the platform is headed. And in the wake of Phil Spencer saying they are planning a business meeting to share the vision for the future of Xbox, we now have claims that things will get better and that we shouldn't believe everything that we have read, which is odd in light of the overwhelming consensus that we almost immediately had. Anyone and everyone with a contact at Xbox or Bethesda, really, anybody with a source, basically chimed in and said that they had heard some variety of the claims. This seems so much bigger than Hi-Fi Rush, Sea of Thieves, and even Starfield. This sounds like a top-level change that came from Microsoft. So first, I want to talk about what happened, right? We've got a lot of claims, we've got a lot of things allegedly happening, and now we have a new claim about next week being better, which has actually just caused more confusion. Now, secondly, I want to look at the reaction to all of this. Some are holding out hope that Phil Spencer's going to walk everything back and say, everything's fine, we're not doing any of the stuff that you've heard about. Others seem to think that a scheduled meeting is strong confirmation that big changes are coming. Now, lastly, I will give you my thoughts on all of this. Obviously, I have some choice words about the Starfield situation. I already kind of talked about that. But given the whole scope of this, I have some other theories about what Phil will say, but also about where this came from and where Xbox is headed. So up first, what happened? So just to quickly run through the games, okay? This all started with Starfield and Xbox era. Then other games were listed. Gears of War is being considered. Indiana Jones as well. Then Halo was mentioned, and then the job posting for the new Halo lead game system designer, and it said they needed to help deliver a, quote, cohesive experience for all players on all platforms. This is all in the wake of Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves and the claims that they will be happening earlier this year, as early as the first quarter. I even saw Zubitech list Flight Sim and Grounded, even id Software's next game, which is Doom Year Zero. Allegedly, that'll be hitting PlayStation day one. So lots of claims, lots of games, right? What is going on? Honestly, if Starfield is coming, then why not all of the rest? That's kind of been my logic about this. That was always my question about Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves. If you're willing to move smaller titles for the sake of ROI, why wouldn't that naturally lead to bigger titles coming as well? The other thing to consider is, can all of these insiders be wrong? Why did it all come out practically at the exact same time? Part of me wonders if this was one of those planned leaks. You throw the community into a spiral, it seems like the sky is falling, and then whatever you say seems like an improvement on what could have been much worse, according to all the fear and the speculation. But there was the claim that someone leaked this because of the outcry, right? Jeff Grubb claimed something would be happening at the end of February, and we were told, well, this was a genuine leak. And if it is, it seemed to have caused a domino effect, and it forced the meeting next week. It's hard to know given the timing with DICE. Whatever the case may be, whether this was a planned leak or not, I have a hard time believing anything that transpired in the last 72 hours has changed any major plans. Like, I don't think they're going to walk back things they were considering doing. But I do believe it prompted the response and the subsequent meeting from Phil Spencer. Well, if it is Phil Spencer that ends up doing it. So what's been the reaction to all of this? Well, there are obviously a broad spectrum of responses to this. Starfield prompted its own anger and frustration, but the level of reach this seems to have, really caused a lot of emotions and a lot of outcry. And now the call is for calm and waiting for Xbox to actually say something. So the first thing I'm seeing is now that, oh, none of this is happening. Yeah, we were all wrong. Starfield staying exclusive. This was just a big misunderstanding or something like this, okay? I looked into this, and nobody that has contacts that I know, that I've talked to, they're not hearing that this has been walked back. As it stands right now, those who I have spoken to who have contacts at Bethesda, nothing new has been communicated, okay? Also, nobody with contacts or insiders is claiming this. They're not saying, oops, we misfired, Starfield's not going to PlayStation 5. If the Starfield news was rolling back or if it was reversing, those contacts at Xbox or Bethesda would be pushing that out there. The click rate on those articles and those videos would be pretty high. You'd have people making videos right now saying, nope, Starfield stays on Xbox, right? And that still could happen. Some of this might have just been considerations that were blown out of proportion. I'll talk about that more in a moment, but nobody is saying that at this moment. Nobody with contacts, insiders, nobody in the know is saying that this has been walked back. It would also be somewhat strange if it was. Now, a response that came up in a member stream in response to the whole, hey, next week will be better, don't believe everything you've read. Some folks don't appreciate this. They said that this is just more astroturfing PR. So for those who are unfamiliar with the term, astroturfing is, quote, the deceptive practice of presenting an orchestrated marketing or public relations campaign. It's hard not to think that the monsoon of insiders and contacts are all pretty tectonic. Everything they're talking about is pretty significant. The idea that someone from Xbox just decided to say, hey, don't believe it all, next week will be better, that just seems a little too convenient. It also felt kind of fake. Why wouldn't someone from the press get any info? Why wouldn't they get any of the messaging? Why wouldn't they send an official Microsoft spokesperson to press outlets to say, listen, a lot of what you heard is not true. It's going to be fine. It's going to be better. They would do some sort of a PR runway setup. That hasn't happened. So I'm not sure I take anything that we've heard to the bank. Again, it feels like more astroturfing. We've seen evidence of astroturfing. The reason it's called astroturf is because it's fake. It's like fake grassroots movements, right? It's like, oh, everybody thinks this, everybody's saying this. And this feels very much like that. It was a way to kind of calm everybody down as things were getting pretty out of hand. It just feels like a great way to do that because, and then it just creates great space for speculation, right? Well, hey, it's going to be pretty good. Maybe we misfired on all of this. Another response that came out of our member stream was somebody said, listen, you don't schedule a meeting like this to just say, oh, it's all fake. None of this is happening, right? It's been well observed that in the wake of the CFO's remarks back in November, Phil was quick to do an interview and speak on the fact that there were no plans for Game Pass to come to PlayStation or Nintendo. So the logic flows. If this wasn't happening, Phil or someone from Microsoft would just say so, right? That was part of my pushback. When someone claimed I didn't have sources and that their source called me a liar, my request was simple. Get your source to go on the record and just claim that this isn't happening. There's been a surprising amount of silence from that outfit on those initial claims. One response I saw came in the way of a question from Tom Henderson. Now, I don't know if Tommy is hinting that he knows something or if this is just a hunch, because I've seen others suggest something similar. Tom said the following. He said, if Xbox said next week that some of its games will be coming to rival platforms at full price, but the Xbox platform will get 6 to 12 months exclusivity plus day one Game Pass on those games, would that be an acceptable announcement? Now, I actually think that's probably close to what might end up being happening. Like, they're going to say, listen, when we see fit, we are going to bring some of our best titles, biggest titles to other platforms, but fear not, they will hit Xbox first. They will continue to hit Game Pass. Now, again, there's rumors that Game Pass is changing, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's largely what some of the messaging is next week. Now, I was curious what folks thought about this, because I find it to be a likely outcome, okay, at least for now. With larger and more in-demand titles, I could see them really wanting to sell those day one on PlayStation to maximize profit. Everybody knows you make the most sales and the most money in those first couple of weeks and in that first month. Now, this was pointed out to me by Donnie from Pure Dead Gaming. He replied and said, I'd say that's a waste of time. Unless the game was an absolute banger must play, who on PlayStation is going to pay $70 for a 6 to 12 month old game that Xbox got for free on Game Pass? That doesn't work for most games. Now, this is certainly a valid perspective. The optics on getting a 6 to 12 month old game after folks on Game Pass already got it and you're supposed to buy it at full price, that's not exactly a compelling offer. And it wouldn't be a compelling offer to executives either, because they'd be facing either diminished sales or they'd have to lower the price of the game. It doesn't make Game Pass attractive either because, well, you can just wait. It's not like you're going to get people to leave PlayStation to go to Game Pass. They're like, well, I'll just wait 6 months to a year. There's no reason to go over there. I can get it on my system where I already have my digital library. Waiting would likely hurt sales momentum, and others seem to agree with that. This would be a good solution in the short term as games like Starfield come over, or maybe something like Indiana Jones. But long term, building for the larger platform where the vast majority of the sales would come from would likely take priority. PlayStation's a larger platform, it's set to outpace PS4, and people buy games over there in large quantities. That's an obvious concern for Xbox fans. This feels like you're sort of pulling at a thread on a sweater, and some don't see it that way. Some basically said what amounts to, everything's fine, right? I saw some calling for calm, saying that they had overreacted at one level. I actually think that is true. I do think people overreacted. I tried to focus on the Starfield show when I was talking about that. Like, listen, what about the game? What about the future? What about the hardware? But I don't see this as like a, well, the sky's falling, Xbox is dead scenario. And a lot of the conversation and a lot of the meltdowns made it seem that way, which is why I saw people saying, listen, just rip off the Band-Aid and get this over with. If you're going to do it, just do it, right? I tend to agree with that. If you're going to do this, just do it, okay? Walk out and just say, listen, the future of Xbox is bigger than one console. Like, just tell people that so that they know what to expect. You've been selling people a bill of goods since the Project Scarlet marketing. Enough's enough. Just tell people what's going on. Set the expectations and then go forward with whatever the new plan is. Continuing to drag it out or use generic PR speech, it's just going to make it worse, especially after so many fans feel like this generation has not delivered on Xbox's promises. I'm definitely one of those people, so I will be looking at everything stated next week with a very skeptical eye, which that's a good time to transition. Let me tell you what I think about all of this, okay? First and foremost, my thoughts on the whole next week will be better, okay? And the don't believe everything you've read. My initial thought on this is twofold. First, too many people confirmed what they had heard and that this is happening, or very likely happening, for this to suddenly just be walked back. And that just would not make any sense. You don't plan this business meeting, and it seems like a reactionary business meeting to these rumors, just to walk out and say, nope, guys, none of this is happening, okay? But I will say this. There is a part of me that thinks, well, what if all of this was just being considered and it caused a crazy game of telephone at the companies? Like, everybody's telling somebody what they heard. Now, that certainly is a possibility. Jeff Grubb and others use language like, well, they're considering bringing Gears of War. They're considering Indiana Jones. Now, did Microsoft have a big sit down and comb over all the big property and consider the ramifications of publishing games on PlayStation? And maybe that's all that happened. Maybe. I will give you a big maybe. Maybe that's what happened, and we've completely got a lot of smoke and no fire. When something hits this many avenues of contacts and insiders, it doesn't feel like there was just some simple spitball session and that it's all been exaggerated. It feels like something changed. And I want to show you and I want to read what the person who originally leaked this on a forum back in January, they were actually the first person that I could find claiming that Starfield was coming along with all of the Hi-Fi Rush, Sea of Thieves rumors. And I got to go big here so you can see everything they said. They said, I want to jump on your post to add to it. The idea that any of this is in a reversible position is nothing but wishful thinking at best. You have to be the most blinded, diehard fan to believe that this can be reversed with enough fan outcry. Games don't just magically come out on consoles because you want them to, especially if they are big games. Yes, Hi-Fi Rush is a big game in this context. Each publisher signs a series of agreements to put a title on a console in order to release it. These agreements are binding. Yes, you can do something like, say, cancel your game, but if you're planning on releasing it on a platform, there are a myriad of terms you must agree to. Sony and Nintendo have known for a long time now that this was happening. The other third parties did not. This is becoming a big deal for third parties behind the scenes, by the way. Microsoft did not adopt this position neither lightly. Notice how they said Microsoft. I'm going to touch on that in a moment. They said, or with the notion of reversing course. This is a maneuver born from fiscal responsibility, not due to choice. Okay, a couple of things worth noting. The initial report about this also indicated that sources and contacts that were in the know, they were claiming there was an increase in PS5 dev kit investment for all of this to take place. Like Microsoft was investing in making sure that was available. This pairs really well with what this person is saying. A decision this big is not made quickly. It's not made lightly. You can't just slam it in reverse because a few YouTubers got upset or there's been some angry Twitter spaces. Somebody should really also pay attention to this, right? This person seems to be indicating that this came from Microsoft. Now, that was a theory that I trotted out yesterday, and Tom Warren from The Verge is basically saying the same thing, right? I got him right across the bottom. There's Tom Warren posting, and he says the following. I just want to make it very clear that most folks in Xbox don't know the full details of what Microsoft will discuss next week. See, again, the invoking of Microsoft. Microsoft is going to discuss this next week, not Xbox, okay? He says, so people that are backtracking on certain stuff never really knew either. Tom seems to be indicating a few things. One of those things is something that I said when we reported on this in January. A lot of people that are connected and have sources, I don't know if they're in the know about this. Why? Because this is coming from Microsoft. They have contacts at Bethesda. Maybe they have contacts at Xbox. They probably don't have contacts at Microsoft. They're going to be the last ones to find out about this. That's why I had sources outside of those companies that were like, Starfield's coming. And people got really upset because they're like, I have sources at Bethesda or I have sources at Xbox, and they're saying, Well, if you go back and listen to the comments from the CFO and the CEO, in light of what Tom Warren is saying, this was not an Xbox decision. I've even seen speculation that Xbox leadership and Microsoft leadership are not in agreement on this, which could be why we're hearing like, hey, don't believe everything you've read. Maybe Xbox leadership has been able to push back on certain aspects of what we've heard. But as I've said numerous times, since we've heard about Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves, once you move a few titles and you see that return and you see that money, it only makes sense to move the bigger titles. If you're willing to spend money to port and upset the consumers with smaller titles, just rip the Band-Aid off, as I've already said. Just start making the ROI. I also think that something Phil Spencer said about Nintendo should be echoed here. Do you remember the infamous email where Phil said about Nintendo, he said, it's just taking a long time for Nintendo to see that their future exists off of their own hardware. I wonder if this is an insight into what the plan was all along. Phil's vision and Microsoft's vision might be more aligned than people think, as it seems that Xbox's future is one that exists off of their hardware. And the truth is, even hardcore Xbox channels and Twitter users seemingly all conceded the facts in the wake of these rumors. The Xbox business model of Game Pass and day and date for big giant titles and spending through the nose to try to grow Game Pass as it's plateaued, while also having a shrinking hardware footprint, well listen, that model's not working. Even the most diehard fans are starting to see the business sense of what these rumors are pointing to. As I said many times in the past, Microsoft is who you should be looking at, not Xbox. And if there's one thing I know about Microsoft, they're going to get what they want, regardless how mad it might make you. That's just what I think. What do you think? All right. Sorry, let me give you my thoughts and conclusions on this. That's 18 minutes. Sometimes I got to take like a little breath there. Okay, listen. This has to be one of the craziest roller coasters in gaming news that I've covered. Someone pointed out on Twitter that this all feels very cult-like, you know? And they said it was strange that none of this outrage was sparked by layoffs, getting rid of physical media, lack of Game of the Year games, lack of quality games, lack of next-gen games, lack of first-party titles, right? The devalue of games with Game Pass launching things like Redfall, people making excuses for games like Forza Motorsport and its terrible scores, right? And they sabotaged their own hardware with their two-tier setup. None of that sparked outrage from the Xbox loyal, right? The really hardcore fans. What sparked all the outrage was PlayStation 5 players might be able to play Xbox exclusives. Nobody cared when the Series S basically lampooned all the Series X marketing. Nobody cared about the lack of first-party quality next-gen games, all the hand-waving and the excuse-making and the wait until. But honestly, I think this makes sense. When one of the very few console exclusives that Xbox fans have received in the past 4 years suddenly looks like it's going to go somewhere else, well, that's a straw that breaks a camel's back if there's one to be broken. I do think, the second thing I want to say is this. Do I think that somebody got a DM that said, next week will be better, and don't believe everything you've read? Yep, maybe, okay? And if they did, it just feels like more PR and astroturfing. There are very well-connected press outlets that have basically said nothing since Phil tweeted about the business meeting. They reported on what Phil said, and they sort of moved on. They're not walking out and saying, I'm hearing from my sources now, this isn't as dire. Nobody's saying that, okay? If this was all smoke, no fire, the response would be quicker. They would leverage major gaming outlets to quiet this, and they haven't done that. They're not going to use a podcast on YouTube to really say anything official. This was more, I think, again, manipulation of the public, getting the public to calm down. And they didn't use an official press outlet. They didn't use a spokesperson speaking to somebody in an interview. This just feels bizarre at best. My conclusion is this. I really have to agree with what someone said on Twitter when there's this call for patience. Let's just be patient. Let's wait, right? They were like, listen, I'm sick of hearing that. And this is basically what they said. They said Xbox has had since December to get in front of this and speak to this. And that makes me point to the Phil Spencer interview that happened after the CFO's remarks. Phil, in my opinion, masterfully distracted the public. He only spoke on the fact that there were no plans for Game Pass to come to PlayStation and Nintendo. He said nothing about first-party games. And look how fast and look how quickly that satisfied everyone. I tried pointing this out, but everyone felt as if Phil had put the matter to bed. But then Satya Nadella said what he said on the shareholders call about the future and health of Xbox. Then he says in an interview they could make a great publisher on Nintendo and on PlayStation, right? And then sources started hearing things, and now you have all these other people saying they've heard things. All these games are apparently being considered. All of this sounds like a train leaving the station. A train, I might add, that Microsoft seems to be driving and not Xbox. And it's picking up speed. So we'll finally hear wherever it's headed next week. So for now, we wait. Some with fear, some with hope, and some with just morbid curiosity about how long these public meltdowns will last. But those are just my thoughts. Now it's time to hear your thoughts. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I appreciate you guys being here so much. Go through the morning ritual of smashing that like button. Let's get our first 200 likes. Holy moly, there's a lot of you here. I'm telling you, this is the craziest. This is the craziest story I think I've covered, right? We've covered some pretty wild things. We've covered, the acquisition. We covered, court documents. And now all of a sudden, we're covering it's gonna be fine. Next week will be better. Like, don't believe everything you've read. It's like, what are you talking about? Now, again, all that could be because a lot of these people have contacts at Xbox, and Microsoft is the one pulling the strings, okay? They're the puppet master, right? Somebody says long monologue. That was only 23 minutes, man. Do you remember the days when I would have an opening monologue that was like 30 to 40 minutes because of all the Activision Blizzard documents I had to comb over? Man, oh man. I don't miss those days, right? Now, I got to make sure and thank people in the right order. I'm seeing gifted members come in. Reaper opened up the day with 34 months as a member. Thank you so much in a VIP. My man Woolie's in the chat. Woolie, good to see you, dude. I love Wooly. Love him. I'm glad the fam's well. Good to see. We've been DMing, dude. Always good to see a dad and the kiddos just having a good life. So happy for you. He says, you were preaching before, brother. They've been lying this whole time, and now they're acting blindsided. When everyone plays, we all win. Isn't that what they wanted? No? Right. I said yesterday, you deserve to get blindsided when you're willingly putting on a blindfold. Lock PSB with 5 months says, I think this move is how Microsoft can get a form of Game Pass on PlayStation, all first-party titles for $10 a month. Now, that is an interesting theory. Is this how they do the unthinkable? I've always been like, there's no way they're going to get Game Pass on PlayStation. You want to know why? PlayStation has no interest in that. They want Starfield to sell it. They don't want some $10 a month competitor subscription thing, It's not a bad theory, but again, I think PlayStation would say no thank you, because then you're competing with really big name titles. You also have to consider something. Microsoft is pulling this trigger. Microsoft wants ROI. They're going to get way more return of investment by selling games on PlayStation at full price, not through a Game Pass first-party subscription service. $10 a month, and you got to do a 30% split with PlayStation on that $10 a month. That sounds like a dream. They wouldn't do that. Now, Han shot first, and so did you. RPG kicking off the day. Unbelievable. Gifts a member, but we have 3 total because DK Bager gifted a member, and so did MASH. Now, if we can get roughly 200 more members today, guys, we're going to play on Friday night. We're going to play Helldivers 2, me and my man Hilly, and you can make Hilly play, and he's not allowed to use a gun. He's gonna have to follow me around and reload my rocket launcher. Okay, we only need about 200 members, a little less than 200 members, because I gift members as well, and that helps boost it. So make sure you guys push that number today really hard. The best to keep that momentum, and then we can have a really fun Friday night. It's a members only stream, so make sure your members up to date, and all gifted members can come to that Friday night thing as well. Thanks for being here. Talents 860 coming in and says, with a 5-month re-up, had both PS3 and 360, but continued on with Sony. I would definitely buy Halo, Flight Sim, and other Xbox first-party games on PlayStation. Talents, you and the other person I was speaking to this morning that renewed their membership, you and Lock PSB, make sure you guys bump up from the $5 tier to the $6 tier. The $5 tier is now literally titled Gifted. It's purely reserved for gifting members. So you want to bump up. The title is called Member. It's a standard membership. It's only $1 more, but it gives us a dividing line between the two pools of people. So, Deacon gifts a member, and then a 5-bomb comes in from Talents. This guy's not just renewing his membership, he's gifting memberships. Thank you so much, taking us to 9 members on the day. If you guys get a gifted member, it's a 5 gifted member train as MASH gifts 5 members, taking us to 14. Thank you guys so much. Keep that 5 gifted train going. We'll hit 200 in the blink of an eye. Wooly says they profit off third-party sales. Right, I really think people are still sort of clutching. Thank you, Koei, for upgrading to the standard membership. I appreciate that. I wish I could make it a penny. We literally just need to have 2 buckets, and that's the only way I can do it. It's an extra $1, right? It's just the way we have to do it. Now, I think people are still clutching to a lot of old ideas. Literally saw a guy getting roasted by Asmongold this morning. Now, my heart goes out to Doc Dark. I don't know if I'd ever want to be in an Asmongold video the way that he's in the Asmongold video, but but there was somebody in that video getting roasted up, deservedly so, and basically just holding on to old narrative points. Like, PlayStation's on their knees right now. In what universe? What are you talking about? 3-to-1 hardware distribution? They just showed off and announced 9 console exclusives, and they just had a state of play for a 10th console exclusive, and they haven't shown a single first-party studio game. What makes you think that they're on their knees? In what universe? In what universe is that still happening? Now, the reason I say that is what Wooly and I are pushing back on is the idea of well, they want Game Pass on PlayStation or Nintendo, or, well, they said that, these games are going to go wherever Game Pass exists or whatever. Listen, if this is coming from Microsoft, you've got to let go of everything you think is happening. You've just got to let go of it. You're clutching to like old narrative points of like, oh yeah, dude, Game Pass is the future. They're gonna put Game Pass on PlayStation. No, they're not. If they pull the trigger on this, it has nothing to do with Game Pass. It's because they want to make money. That's simple. The simplest explanation. You don't leverage Starfield or a new id Software game or Hi-Fi Rush or Sea of Thieves. You don't leverage those titles to be like, hey, all this great property, let's spend money porting it to PlayStation so that people can sign up for a $10 a month Game Pass subscription. That doesn't make any sense, right? It doesn't. If Sony has already EA Play and Ubisoft Plus on their platform, why can't they have a version of Xbox Game Pass with only Xbox published games on it? I'm telling you, because they make money off of titles that are that large. EA Play and Ubisoft Plus are, I'll grant you EA Play, but not Ubisoft Plus. I don't think they make tons of money off of Ubisoft property. If Microsoft comes to the table and is like, okay, think about it like this. Let's forget PlayStation for a second. Just think about Microsoft's motivation instead, right? You've got Microsoft executives, in my opinion, pushing for this. They're saying, put the content over there. Because one look at the financials of Call of Duty tells you everything you need to know. Right? Everything we need to know. You can laugh at Doc, but can't bring up this guy. Yeah, because Doc is a friend, and I like him. Big difference. Graydon with the 5-bomb coming in. Thank you so much. Taking it to 19. Appreciate that very, very much. Doc has never propagated lies about me. So, big difference in integrity and character there. That's all. If Microsoft's pulling this trigger and saying this is what we want to do, Microsoft, as the CFO indicated in a Wells Fargo meeting, he says, we're moving into high margin markets. We're going to take our first-party property to what was previously considered a competitor. That's not the language of somebody who wants to leverage Game Pass on PlayStation. They want high margins. Yeah, by the way, we're laughing alongside of Doc. Like, Doc's going to take that in stride. Doc is being a goof in that video. And I think even Asmongold could tell that Doc was being a goof. Wooly says, Jaffe said Death Stranding 2 is the kind of game you're only happy with because it's dry. He also said he doesn't want to pay for Helldivers 2 because Game Pass has raised his standards. What? None of that even makes any sense. That all sounds like random meanderings from a fever dream. That doesn't even sound logical. Like, people only play an award-winning Kojima title because it's dry? Is it dry right now? The gaming world's dry? Are we starving for announcements? Are we starving for games? Are we starving for trailers? It's a deluge right now. What are you talking about? There's not enough time to even play the games coming out. What do you mean? Put some respect on Kojima's name. Are you freaking kidding me? People only play Death Stranding because it's dry. That doesn't make any sense. That sounds insane to me. Yo, Graybush Gaming, thank you so much for upgrading to a standard membership. Yeah, Doc had Asmongold laughing. I thought that was in good spirit. Back to what I was saying about whether or not this entire strategy is to put Game Pass on PlayStation, okay? The CFO made it very clear what the strategy is. We want to go into high-margin markets. What do you think the margin comparison is between getting somebody to sign up for Game Pass and getting somebody to buy Starfield? You don't have to get out a calculator. I'll save you the time. The margin is a lot higher on selling Starfield, especially when market research would show you there's a huge Bethesda community on the PlayStation console. Go back and look at how Fallout 4 sold with the PlayStation audience. All right? Like, seriously. The margins are so much better on selling Starfield to PlayStation users than trying to leverage Starfield to get people onto Game Pass. You also have comments from Phil Spencer to the Brazilian regulators when he said 15% of our annual revenue will likely come from Game Pass. It's pretty much plateaued. That doesn't sound like that's the central driving force anymore. It's not the centrifuge. It's like, yeah, we have that, but that's not our primary goal anymore. And if Activision Blizzard is an accelerant to their strategy, there you go. That dovetails with what the CEO said. Should they show the actual numbers of their Game Pass cloud subscriptions and more? I feel like it would help show people that what the CEO and many others have been saying. Yeah, you mean that like that Game Pass is not the strategy? Game Pass is not the goal anymore? I see people saying that still to this day. They're like, yeah, the goal, everything centers around Game Pass. I'm like, no. I was like, have you been paying attention? Game Pass isn't at the center of anything. This ABK purchase was not about Game Pass. It was about software strategy from Microsoft. I said it last year numerous times. Microsoft is going to take the software strategy, put our software everywhere. We don't care. That's how you make your money. Shelly says, Lono, I think the reason Phil Spencer is making us wait a week for an announcement is because Hi-Fi is getting unveiled as a surprise Nintendo Direct next week, and they don't want to upset Nintendo. That's not a bad theory, Shelly. I missed a 5-bomb? What? Graybush upgraded. Graydon? No, I added Graydons. Yeah, I added Graydons. And Koei, thank you so much, Koei, for upgrading. Yeah. I added Graydons. We were only at 14, right? We had the 1 from Deacon, the 5 from Talents, the 5 from MASH. That's 11. Yeah, it tells me on the back end, 19 new members. I've got the count right. Maybe I didn't shout it out. I might have just added it and didn't say it. That's probably what I did. That's probably my fault. Thank you, Graydon, for the 5-bomb. Another 5-bomb, keeping the goal moving. Thank you. Expect Microsoft to raise the prices on all tiers of Game Pass, claiming that this saves day and date. Another 5-bomb from Skatinator and putting us on the doorstep of the first 25. I will give 5 every 25 today as fast as I can. You guys are going for 3,000 members, and if you hit it, Hilly can't use guns on Friday night when we play Helldivers. That's going to be a blast. All members are invited. Gifted, VIP, every tier can come this Friday night. It'll be a blast. I didn't even know Nintendo had an event coming. So there is speculation that there will be a very big Nintendo Direct in February. And the reason for that is, if you go back and look historically, since I think 2019, they've done a Direct in almost every single year in February. PlayStation had done a State of Play in February for like the last 4 or 5 years as well. And they almost missed that because they did their State of Play in Jan, but now we got the Final Fantasy one, so they kept their track record intact as well. And a 5-bomb from Joker Quinn, taking us to 29. That's Agents of Chaos work right there, taking us past 25. Now we're on our way to 50. I owe you guys 5. DK Baker gifts another one and sets up an easy 20-bomb dunker. Somebody might be able to slam us all the way home to 50 with just one 20 bomb. I'm going to do my 5 and get it out of the way to get you guys. I'm going to help you get the member count as high as possible, as fast as possible, instead of waiting till the end of the stream, because we're always adding and losing at the same time, because, 30 days ago, people were gifting members as well. You guys are so crazy generous. We're always trying to, maintain that momentum, so I'm trying to help with that. PlayStation should follow Xbox steps, let gamers play anywhere. No, I don't agree with that. Asmongold's video was funny, but he goes off on tangents about how it'd be better for gamers if games were everywhere. If Xbox dies, PlayStation dies, Nintendo dies. I don't have time economically to break down how insanely wrong that is. That is so wrong. You cannot look You cannot look at the success of Nintendo and PlayStation. You cannot look at the copious amounts of interviews we have with developers who say it's so much better when they build for one ecosystem. Budget smaller, timeline for the project smaller, quality of the game is better, optimization is better, consumers get a better product. Like, you can't look at all those realities and just sweep your hand and be like, well, I hope all the platforms die and that games just are playable everywhere. Where? Everywhere where? If all of the consoles die, where is everyone playing? Through the cloud on a PC? You think you're going to convince the millions of people who own a Switch or PlayStation to suddenly buy a PC? Asmongold, I love Starforge, but you're not getting all these guys to come over and shop at Starforge, okay, brother? Like, I got nothing but love for Asmongold, but he was way out on left field on that one. I was like, no. This is these platforms are integral to the ecosystem and the economy of gaming. You can't just be like, well, I hope they all die so then we can play games everywhere. What do you mean everywhere? Where? PCs and mobile and cloud? You need consoles to maintain AAA presence. That's where AAA games are sold primarily and historically. Come on now. What are we doing here? Gavin Hillick with 8 months says, were you surprised how quickly it went from rage at a massive betrayal to acceptance and even promotion of this genius move to destroy PlayStation? Gavin, thank you for 8 months. Make sure, Gavin, if you're paying for your own membership, upgrade for $1. Upgrade to the standard membership. Some of you guys are still on the old one. So I think people are legitimately just accepting it, but I also think people are holding out hope, right? It's like, I can't think of an example that's not morbid. Like when you know the prognosis is bad, but it hasn't been verbalized. Guys, you don't need to insult Asmongold. I like Zach. He seems like a really nice guy. I can disagree with his take. We don't got to insult the person. Jiminy Christmas. We're better than that. Stop. What was I saying? Yeah, until it's like officially stated, then you can hold out hope that like, oh, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's going to be okay, right? We do this all the time. Like it's part of the human condition. I think people are genuinely like thinking. I'll give you an example. The CFO says what he says. He says that we're going to put first-party games on other platforms. We're going to put first-party games on platforms that were previously considered competitors. And what did so many people say? One of those people is here today. Erodimus, I love you, but you dug in deep. Your heels touched the core of the earth. You dug in so hard on this, and you said, no, he's only talking about Activision Blizzard. And y'all did the same thing when the CEO said what he said, right? There's this, no, there's no way they're going to do that. It must be this. Like, there's this holding out hope. There's this white-knuckled clutching of, like, there's absolutely no way this is going to happen. And then it's like, it's happening. It's happening. And so there's only one approach to that. There's either, there's anger, there's rage, there's denial, and then there's anger and there's rage. Then there's acceptance, and then there's depression. It's like they're getting one last little B12 shot of hope of like, oh yeah, Phil Spencer's going to walk out and say, none of this is happening. Like, so if you think that's the case, why hasn't Phil done that yet? Why? It hasn't happened yet outside of ABK games. So, Hi-Fi Rush is coming officially, according to everybody in the know. All the data mines. Hi-Fi Rush is coming. Do you not count that? What about Sea of Thieves? Almost assuredly coming from everything we've heard. Like, the same thing happened with the CFO's remarks. Phil Spencer comes out and says, well, we have no plans to put Game Pass on PlayStation and Nintendo. And everyone's like, see, they're not doing it. And it's like, did you listen to what he said? He didn't say anything about first-party titles. Don't you think it's interesting that the only thing Phil was willing to say from November to now, the only concrete verbiage you have from Phil Spencer is, we have no plans to put Game Pass on PlayStation and Nintendo. And that sentence has been like a life preserver for people. They're like, oh, whew, thank goodness. It's like he didn't say anything. He didn't say anything about first party. Don't you wonder why? Come on. Think. Add 2 and 2 together. If he could come out and say, this wasn't happening, we are not doing that with Bethesda titles. It'll be case by case with other titles, as we've always said. There are previous interviews where he's all but indicated there'll be case by case instances where games do come to other platforms. He would just reiterate that, and he's not doing that. I don't count anything until I can buy it on my Switch and my PS5. That's fine. As I said, you got your heels dug in all the way to the core of the earth. At one level, I admire it. I'm stubborn as well. But good Lord, it's just so obvious. This guy posted on a forum and says, Jez legitimately wrote articles talking about these ported games and third-party plans were literally not true. Even did a clown shoes puff piece. I am not endorsing this at all. I'm just reading this. Somebody posted this in the Discord. I don't like having insults hurled at Jez. I don't have issues with him. Not to this degree. Even did a clown shoes puff piece with Phil in December while devs were legitimately making the ports, and many of us knew about it. These folks are brand ambassadors who get their information from Microsoft marketing groups. Whatever you hear from them, it's because they are largely working as public spin. Now, I don't necessarily agree with the last part, because if that were the case, then why would Jez go so hard on the critical? He went so hard about this. He was critical about it. He did a great article yesterday about all the broken trust. That doesn't sound like somebody who's just getting his talking points from the marketing. Now, did he play nice in December? Yes, he did. Because I guarantee you Phil's like, we can't talk about that. I can't answer that question. Jez is no better than Tim Dog. I tell you what Jez hasn't done. He hasn't used his platform to spread slander and nonsense about me. Jez misfired on me and politely took those tweets down early last year. If you use your platform to spread slander and lies about me, no way. You are on the bottom rung of humanity. Jez is not there. He's not. He has his preferences. He has the brand that he obviously writes for. But he's been very critical of a lot of this. Jez is the only one last year that we could count on to report on things like, we knew that Microsoft was constraining Series X production for cloud. We heard that from Jez first. We heard that from Jez first. He was one of the only people last year we could get accurate information from about Xbox. Now, fine. Does he run in circles that make it easy for some of you to be saying some of the things that you're saying? Sure. If you go on a podcast with a guy who creates salt content and calls me retard gaming, yeah, you're kind of asking for it. Maybe reconsider doing shows with people like that. But I have not found his articles to be nothing but PR and marketing. He's been quite critical of a lot of the stuff that's come out about this. And he just wrote an article yesterday about this, about the reason everybody's so upset is because of the bad communication and the broken trust. And it's a Microsoft problem, fundamentally. What format do you think this business update will take place? It doesn't make sense to even exist. A video, a blog, a tweet? I have no idea. I have no idea. I would imagine this would be a video, a pre-recorded video of Phil Spencer. I think you have to walk Phil Spencer out. Can I call you that? I'm a VIP. Donnie says, like I said before, when Phil spoke to Jez in December, he was not asked, will Xbox games be sold on PlayStation off the shelf? He was purely asked, will Game Pass be on PlayStation? No, but that's a very different proposition. I said at the time, Donnie, I said it was a beautiful display of, it was a looky-loo. It was like, everybody look over here. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, first-party games coming to the competitor feels like, look over there, everybody. Look at Game Pass. We're not going to put Game Pass on PlayStation and Nintendo. And everyone's like, whoo. It's like, what did you, huh? Everybody fell for it. They all fell for it. I don't fault Jez for that. Jez did his job. He interviewed a guy. He asked what he was allowed to ask about, and he published it. Yeah, that's on Phil. Phil's the one that walked out and was like, oh gosh, we got to quiet this crap down. Do you want to know why Phil did that? Because this plan was emerging. In December, Blizzard PR reaches out to Paris at the Game Awards and is like, yeah, we can't wait to have you sit down with Mike Ibarra. January, Mike Ibarra's gone. This plan was ongoing. It was developing. That's why Phil Spencer was like, we have got to get the heat off of this first party thing. We cannot have people focusing on that. Why? Because it's happening. Phil did the same thing with gamers in general, trying to pass the ZeniMax deal. It's a masterclass in PR speak. Can't wait to see everyone's reaction when someone from Microsoft comes out and says, yeah, all. Talents with a $5 super chat tip. Xbox been breaking promises for years. I tried to tell my Xbox friends, but they fell for it. Hang on 1 second. Let me make sure I haven't missed anything. Okay, I have not missed any member updates. Let me give you guys an update on that. I'm going to refresh the back end while you guys are typing. Stop, enough. Microsoft is still fighting the FTC in court, so they can't be straight on some of their PR talk. Come on, man. Come on, Erodimus. Stop. No. The CFO spoke to Wells Fargo investors. The CEO spoke to shareholders. It's a matter of public record what their intentions are. You think the FTC gives a single ounce of a frick about whatever Phil Spencer says next week? The CFO and the CEO are on public record. We're going to make great games and we're going to put them everywhere. And if they break those commitments to investors and shareholders, they will be sued. You can't talk to would-be investors. You cannot talk to shareholders and say things like that and then walk out and be like, yeah, we're not doing that. Yeah. We listened to the Twitter spaces, and I gotta be honest, you guys make some compelling arguments. We're walking it all back. Like, that's not happening. That's not happening, brother. This is why I said, people that feel blindsided by this, it's only because you were wearing a blindfold. You just put it on. Stand on business? Yeah, I appreciate that, Skinnerd. Come on. If the FTC, I can never say that without hearing Eminem. If the FTC won't let me be, if the FTC is interested, they have all they need. Tim Stewart's under Phil. Who's Satya Nadella in this equation then, Erodimus? I'm just curious. Satya Nadella was asked, what is the future and the health of Xbox? And his answer was, we can finally do what we always set out to do, make great games and put them on all platforms. That's what Satya Nadella thinks of Xbox's future. He didn't talk about a console. He didn't talk about cloud gaming. He didn't talk about Game Pass. You asked the big man himself, and that's what he said. He said the same thing the CFO said. Y'all act like Tim Stewart's above Phil. In the grand scheme of things, the CFO speaking to investors, you cannot walk that back, brother. Phil Spencer doesn't have a veto stamp. He can be like, I know he said that, guys. Don't worry. Everybody calm down. It's fine. Hardware sales are slowing. Game Pass has plateaued. But we're going to keep pressing on with exclusives after spending $70 billion. I'm just gonna rubber stamp veto what the CFO said. The fallout from that would be absolutely massive. You can't undo what a CEO and a CFO say to shareholders and investors and would-be investors. That's not a thing that can happen. There's literally no way. And when a CFO is speaking to investors or the CEO is speaking to shareholders, Erodimus, you and many other people did this. You insisted they were only talking about Activision Blizzard. You understand that if that was the case, they have a due diligence to delineate that to the shareholders and the investors. You don't just let people presume and assume, hey, what's the future and health of Xbox? We just spent a bunch of money. We just got Activision Blizzard. Now we can do what we've always set out to do. Make great games and put them on all platforms. If he's assuming that the shareholders think, oh, he just means the Activision Blizzard property, that he wouldn't do that. That would be absolutely negligent to not specify that. Phil runs a division. Yeah, like, again, I think some of this just comes back to the odd cult-like nature to this. Y'all think Phil's gonna ride out on a steed next week and be like, fear not. All is well. We aren't doing any of the things you've heard about. Okay, well, what are you doing then? Why'd you bring us all here? You brought us all here to tell us it's not happening? That doesn't make any sense. Microsoft's in charge. Microsoft's in charge. Look at this. Look what Tom Warren said. Microsoft's in charge. He says, I just want to make it very clear that most of the folks in Xbox don't know the full details of what Microsoft will discuss next week. Look at what Tommy Warren's saying. Look what he's saying. He's like, that Microsoft is the one talking next week, not Xbox. And the people at Xbox are like, we don't know what the frick's going on. He says, people that are backtracking on certain stuff, they never really knew either. This is why we have all this confusion. This is why 3 weeks ago, the internet came from my head. Why? Well, because they all have sources, don't they? And all their sources were like, I don't know what the frick that guy's talking about. They were the last people to find out. Why? Because this came from Microsoft. And as soon as it made landfall, they all said the same thing. Yep, that's what I'm hearing. Yep. I'm hearing that. Yep, it's happening. Wooly says, Tim declaring the ship is sunk when it's been sinking the whole time, and he's denied is helping the millions of people he placated as a corporate megaphone. We've been more pro Xbox than he has. Oh, I thought you were talking about Tim Stewart. I saw Tim and just thought you were talking about the CFO. Scott Dove says, they don't understand how businesses run, Lono. I'm the division leader in my area. The president tomorrow could change all plans. For sure. Are you selling your car? No comment. Should be clear to any adult. Microsoft is going to say, yeah, first party is going to go everywhere immediately because we need cash and lots of it. I'm going to tell you almost exactly what they're going to say. Thank you, Yosh, for 18 months of membership. You guys that are paying for your own memberships, consider bumping up to the $6 member so that you don't miss out on like Writer's Room, Streams with Madam, stuff like that. That $5 tier is now called Gifted because it's when people gift. Speaking of which, total member count is at 2823. You guys are officially like 170 away from the 3,000 goal. Only 170. That's nothing for us, especially because I'm throwing in 5 every 25. If we hit that before Friday, Hilly has to play Helldivers all night without a gun. Microsoft makes developer tools that cover mobile, console, PC, and cloud, which are platforms to him. Oh, okay. What about when he said he thinks they could be a great publisher on PlayStation and Nintendo? We could be. Not we are. Because I know everybody likes to do that. Well, they already are a great publisher on PlayStation and Nintendo. They got Minecraft over there, and now they own Call of Duty. No, he was forecasting the future. He was saying, we think we could be a great publisher on PlayStation and Nintendo. Clearly, the vision of Microsoft is exactly what so many of us said it would be. You spend this level of money, and then you're gonna put it everywhere. It doesn't make any sense to spend $70 billion and then say, no, let's just keep siloing up. Our hardware distribution's terrible. We constrained our own hardware distribution. We continue to deprioritize hardware distribution and physical, but let's keep going by the playbook that's supposed to drive hardware. It doesn't make sense. Everything else lines up. All the other changes they've made, all the other pushes they've made, it just locks in and dovetails with, we're going to put the games on all of the platforms. We're not prioritizing hardware anymore. Now, when Phil talks next week, hang on, I got to thank some people. Chris F. with 20 months. The people saying Sony should also do this don't understand that if Microsoft had the sales of Sony, they wouldn't be doing this either. Exactly right. Why do you think Nintendo's not doing it? When your property sells really well and your hardware is in demand, you don't have to do this. You don't. Your business model's functioning and working. Giru Xbox Series S with 4 months says 1 year exclusive, still stays first 5 after I don't know what the frick you're trying to say. Okay. I do think Phil is going to come out. This is part of what I think is some of the satiation and some of the everybody calm down. It's not going to be that bad. Don't believe everything you've read. Okay. Do you want to know what I think that is? I think Phil comes out and he says that they're still committed to having a console presence and that there is a new console coming. To some degree or another, that's something Phil is going to say. I think a lot of the fear and a lot of the sky is falling, no more consoles, Xbox is dead, I think that's going to get walked back from the cliff of despair, and he's going to be like, we are still committed to having a console presence, and we have a new console on the way. Or we're working right now on hardware innovation and a new console. Now, again, that's PR speak. I think the next console is going to be the cloud hybrid. We're hearing about a 2-tier model, like a high-end console, and then a cloud hybrid handheld. Whatever it ends up being, I think he's going to, in some measure, cast that vision next week to be like, we've got more hardware on the way. We are not getting rid of Xbox. Now, there's rumors about them changing the name from Xbox to Microsoft Gaming, and people are like, that's incredibly stupid. I agree with you, but you know what it sounds like? I'll tell you what it sounds like. It sounds like Microsoft. Microsoft Office, Microsoft Windows, Microsoft Gaming, right? I think it's stupid. I can't imagine they would do it, but it sounds an awful lot like corporatist Microsoft mentality. Well, you better put our name on everything. We're one, like, even Satya said something like this in an interview or something recently about how, like, we're not all these separate things like a conglomerate. We are one company. I forget the phrase that he used. He really stressed that we're this unified thing. Sounds like they're willing to finally admit the name Xbox is burnt beyond repair. Yeah, we're hearing rumors about the about them changing the name, and I'm like, that sounds insane to me. But it also sounds like Microsoft. It does. And you never know. Microsoft's own internal research could be indicating that the Microsoft name is more globally recognized and Xbox has a stigma around it. Do you remember when Phil Spencer said they had significant growth with Game Pass on PC in the Asian market? And when Phil said, like, that is pivotal to their success. Do you remember when he said that? There's a part of me that wonders if they think we're more likely to get people to say, oh yeah, Microsoft, Windows. Yeah, I want to check out their gaming offers or whatever. It's possible that maybe globally, culturally, there's a stigma around Xbox. I absolutely think it's a terrible decision for them to do that, though. Yeah, Microsoft Game Pass, Microsoft Gaming, I'm telling you it's stupid, but I'm also telling you it sounds an awful lot like Microsoft. Their internal research also said that Redfall would score in the 70s. Well, that's an Xbox internal mock scoring system. That's not a Microsoft thing. Eugene says Xbox is not Microsoft Gaming. Xbox is under Microsoft Gaming. Right, but if they start putting that out as the brand, Eugene, is the idea. Broken Lobo says, why is it stupid? They've already calculated the backlash and what that means for them for the next 2 to 3 years. It'll settle, we will game. I mean, yeah, if they just decide that the umbrella term is the term they're going to walk out with, you know, I don't know. You want to talk about meltdowns? They walk out and say, you know, we're now known as Microsoft Gaming, and our goal is to put games everywhere. As we've always said, when everyone games, everyone wins. That'll be somebody's going to have an aneurysm right in the middle of a Twitter space. You know, that's not. They're not going to make it. Okay. Some of these guys aren't going to make it. If something like that happens, then they're not going to make it. We're going to have wellness checks, bro. Like, good night. The meltdowns would be bad. There. People have tattoos. People have like entire rooms set up around the Xbox brand. I don't know, dude. I don't know. Yes, that's why you never go full, chat. You never go full. We've always said it, dude. Never go full. They need to ride the nostalgia and come out with the Xbox 720, actually build a good Halo game, and ride back into success. I mean, listen. If there is one thing that I would love to be able to do next week, I would love to be able to boot up and say, we were all wrong. Xbox is here to stay. Xbox has a plan. Xbox has this. I would love that because I would really I don't want Project Scarlet Round 2 if it just means I get lied to again and buy a box and don't get any of the promises. I would love to boot up next week and be like, I don't know, dude. Phil convinced me. We were wrong. We had all this wrong. You know? I just don't think that's going to happen. They've laid way too much train track about PlayStation and Nintendo are part of the community. You're going to see a bit of a change in strategy, putting first-party games on what was previously considered competitors. We feel we can do what we've always set out to do, make great games and put them on all platforms. We feel we could be a great publisher on PlayStation and Nintendo. That's all vision casting for where they're going. For them to say all that, and then for Phil to walk out next week and be like, you know what? You guys convinced us. We're not doing any of it. It just that literally sounds like something out of a dream. It's like that doesn't make any sense. One of the reasons I want to be nice about this. One of the reasons I think people are clutching to that as a possibility, they've worn a blindfold for so long. Everything I just said, it's like they've either forgotten it, refused to see it. They've ignored it for so long, like it's not a part of their headcanon. Like they don't suddenly realize and think, oh yeah, this is happening. Because like if you just sit back from like a more disconnected position and you just look unbiased, like just imagine that you're like an investor and you're just kind of trying to track and plot out where you think things are going. You don't even play video games, right? You're just some dude with spreadsheets and a pencil and you're like, okay, what are they doing? If you're just doing that and tracking every single breadcrumb, interview, shareholder, investor call, all of it, and you put all the pieces together, you can't come to the conclusion that Phil Spencer's going to walk out next week and say, we're not doing any of that. Starfield is staying exclusive. Now, is there a possibility that they considered Starfield and Gears of War, and so they considered, that was the language that Jeff Grubb and others used. Is there a possibility that they did that and they determined that the fallout would be too bad and the profit wouldn't be high enough? So maybe they're going to pull some games back and say, there are certain games that we feel are too integral to the Xbox brand, and if you want to play them, you got to play them where Game Pass exists. They could say that. They could walk out and say, there are games that are just too integral to that. The main reason I have a hard time seeing that happening is because they are money motivated. They're money motivated. And you can't tell me that the dust up on Twitter was convincing enough when they look at like the sales projections of what they could make off of Starfield on PlayStation. They're like, there's a big Bethesda crowd over there. You have a 2.0 moment, you have a DLC, you sell it all bundled together. We could sell millions of copies of that game over there. Yeah, but people were really angry on Twitter. People return their Xboxes. Let me ask you something. Do you think you convinced them not to do it, or do you think you really encouraged them to do it? All it took was a couple of rumors about Starfield coming to PlayStation from noteworthy outlets, from Xbox outlets. That's all it took for people to lose their minds, jump off the deep end, sell their Xbox. Do you think you convinced them that you were worth it? Or that, what the frick are we, why would they even care? Your cult-like tenuous fandom is broken just like that, just snapped in half. Just, I'm selling my Xbox, I'm getting a PlayStation, let them know what they're doing. What, that's all it took for you to be disloyal? You honestly think that's compelling? What, you gonna cancel your Game Pass? Oh, whatever will we do? You canceled your $10 a month dollar menu gaming subscription because we're gonna sell a game at full price on another platform. Oh, golly. What are we gonna do? They sell one copy of Starfield on another platform, they can lose 3 or 4 of you on Game Pass. What are you talking about? We said this a couple of weeks ago. You surrendered all your buying power when you took on the mantra of Game Pass. I'll wait for it to come to Game Pass. You don't have any buying power. You're the smallest footprint in the gaming community. You don't have buying power. And you think getting angry on Twitter and posting clips and receipts of you handing in your Xbox, you think that's compelling? Or is it just expediting what needs to happen? Hey, we heard a rumor you were doing this. We're done. We're canceling our sub-service and we're returning our Xbox. Great, you just really convinced us we made the right decision. Thank you. Not only are you the smallest footprint in the gaming world, you're petulant, entitled, and childish. You just made this decision really easy. Talk about greasing the wheels and turning the runway lights on. Just tell them to do it. Just tell them. We want you to. I want you to do it. Hit me. Just caught up, says Sven. Is there a world where they release exclusives on Game Pass first that satisfies Game Pass users as timed exclusive and launch for purchase at the same time non-Game Pass? Hang on, I want to read this. They release the exclusive on Game Pass first, time exclusive, launch purchase later, non-Game Pass after. That is precisely what I think they're going to do in the immediate future. That's what I think they do in the immediate future. I think that's how they handle Starfield. I think that's how they handle Indiana Jones. They say, listen, remember the CFO saying first, better, or best? Right? Okay, there's your first, better, or best. Now, here's where the rub is. Okay. The problem with that strategy, it starts to make way less sense for games that are in development right now. All you have to do is look at the sales projection charts for the PS5, and that strategy starts to make no sense. And let me explain why. When you see the market saturation of the PlayStation 5 and then the Pro comes out, it's a little stronger, it can do new cool stuff with ray tracing. If this Switch 2 comes to market, that strategy starts to kind of wither, because what you're going to say is, it makes more business sense. Stop thinking like a brand loyalist. Just put your business cap on, okay? I know it's hard and doesn't fit on your caveman skull. I'm just kidding. Put your business thinking caps on, okay? And think like a business person. The strategy starts to become, doesn't it make more sense to develop the games so they can land on PlayStation day and date? It's a bigger platform. We're gonna make more money. We're gonna make more money, right? You're not gonna continue with a strategy that ensures you sell less copies on the platform that is larger, on the platform where you're actually selling the game at full price. Your own research, your own internal planning is going to say it makes way more sense to launch games on PlayStation day and date. Game Pass users can still retain the value of play it day one on Game Pass. That still enables Microsoft to leverage their ecosystem and their brand and say, day one on Game Pass, day one on Game Pass. Get Game Pass on your TV, your mobile, your phone, your PC, your Xbox cloud device. They're still able to sort of promote that ecosystem, and they're also able to say, oh yeah, by the way, the largest high-end console market in existence, you can buy the game day one. Anything that's in high demand, anything they can think they can sell high quantities of, they're going to have a business motivation to do that. You're not going to go against good business sense to be like, but what about the Game Pass users? What about the Xbox users? That user base is shrinking. You don't have buying power. You're on a subservice. You don't have buying power in the economic structure. You're on a subservice. And the console market for them is falling behind. So there's no business angle to continue doing that. It just doesn't make any sense. You're going to have big titles like Elder Scrolls 6. Do you honestly think they're going to do that? Yeah, no. No. Elder Scrolls 6 got to land on Xbox first. And yeah, we'll bring it to PlayStation a year later. The business sense, the business angle on it, the projected sales, any of the market research would say, no, yeah, you got to build this for all the platforms. You got to ship this on PlayStation day one. There's a big Bethesda crowd over there. What are you doing? But you know, the Xbox user base and the consoles and the Game Pass, that's a drop in the bucket now. Satya Nadella's looking just the massive reach of what they can do, and the quite literal smallest slice of what they can do, what they can reach, and what they can sell is the Xbox console and Game Pass. It is the smallest slice. It's the same reason Netflix reported record profit last year. They called our bluff. Oh, like raising the sub price? What do you mean? Microsoft Store isn't going anywhere. That's where you buy your games now. Well, I mean, I would say that most people buy the Xbox published games on PC are probably largely purchased through Steam, not the Microsoft Store. If they're working on a new console, Lono, in 2026, it goes against your argumentation here. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. There's a high likelihood that that console coming is a cloud hybrid. That doesn't work against what I'm saying at all. You sound like you're port begging now? Mm-hmm. I port beg because I own all the systems. Yeah. I secretly love the companies and the corporations so much that I port beg. I want to buy Starfield a third time. Microsoft sells Surface laptops, tablets, and Xbox could become the same class of product. That's exactly right. It just becomes an access point to their gaming ecosystem. That's it. Like that Satya Nadella said, why don't we just make a controller that people can buy? Somebody said that Jez deleted his Twitter. Are you goofing? No? His Twitter's up. What are you talking about? Are you talking about the Jez in chat? Xbox fanboys, get out while you still have time. You have been warned. If that controller is a green adult toy, the Xbox fans will love it. Well, I mean, in general, I think that what Satya was driving at was not that that's what they're going to do. His vision was, let's just give people a really easy access point to the ecosystem. Remember that FTC leak where they had the slide that said, no longer a console ecosystem. No longer a console generation and ecosystem generation. That's what like Satya was touching on. It's like, we're not really focused on being like a console anymore. Their gaming efforts are more about, well, we're gonna basically spread our footprint, and we're gonna spread our reach in gaming. And why don't we just make it really easy for people to get into that? Let's just give them a controller. Let's just have a cloud access point, to the point that their next console, we don't even know what it's going to be. There's like 8 different versions of what it could be, because there were talks about doing another 2-tier. There was an email exchange between somebody, and this one guy made it clear that like they were going to do it again. They were going to do another 2-tier approach. Well, we're hearing rumors now there will be a 2-tier approach. There's going to be like a high-end console, and there's going to be the handheld. But then there was the report that made it look like, the one document, it made it look like, yeah, we're going to do a cloud hybrid. It's, to me, it's like we don't know where they're going with hardware, because it's very, very clear. This guy Kirkland says, this guy Reforge Gaming seems like the walking definition of things just happen to me because people have it out for me. It's not a problem. Maybe make an observation and check the account you retweeted. Said maybe make an observation on the account you retweeted. He clips me up to 10 times a day, harasses me and my community with alts. But yes, it's my fault people have made fun of me for going to therapy and put me in their salt content. You piss all the way off, dude. Find a curb and piss off to it. So tired of people like that. It's my fault. It's my fault that people attack me. It's just hilarious. Do 10 seconds of research. You melts out here retweeting a guy who incessantly clips me up to 10 times a day. It's disturbing behavior. Incessantly stalks the channel, made up to 10 alts last year, and would sneak his way into gifted membership so he could get into content. And you retweet him because you can't take 10 seconds to check the account you're retweeting. Rub your brain cells together and be better. So freaking tired of people like you. So freaking tiring. You signal boost a disturbed individual. Use your freaking brain. I don't have any tolerance for it anymore. I'm sick of being nice about it. I'm so sick of being nice about it. These people with platforms that do podcasts and create content literally signal boost a psychopathic stalker. Like, there's no excuse for it. There's no excuse for it. It's disgusting. Thank you, Outsider, for the 5 gifteds. And the people that put him in their content and encourage the behavior, you're just as frickin' bad. You make money off of harassment, and you are despicable to me. You want to tag those guys. You want to throw out a clip and tag those guys who take that guy's behavior and encourage it. They make money off of harassment, and it's frickin' gross. All I do is make content about the gaming industry. I don't go out and make content about anybody. I don't name people. I don't attack people. I don't do any of that nonsense. But you're so lacking in creativity that all you can do is make content making fun of other people. So freaking irritating. And to see somebody that I respected who's done podcasts with Ginger signal boost that, dude, sit the frick down. Sit all the way down. Quit signal boosting psychopathic crazy people. It's irritating. Use your brain. Be better. Be an adult. I'm tired of having to share this space with extended adolescent insecure boys. Grow the frick up. It's tiring. Clip me yesterday. He's making this all about him because people made it all about me last year. The level of targeting I had to deal with, the level of hate and harassment hurled at me over video game opinions. But I'm not supposed to mention that? No, Ginger didn't do anything. I respected that guy because I've seen him doing stuff with Ginger. Who made fun of you for therapy? They all have. They all have. I've been in therapy since 2018. I made mention of the fact that, I had said something to my therapist about it. Like, this doesn't really get to me like it used to, right? Like, it used to really bother me. Like, the public attacks. It's very, after everything I've been through, it's very activating. I'm just being transparent. Like, I've been through a lot. And when you get publicly attacked like that, it's very activating. And I mentioned in a clip that, like, I had mentioned something to my therapist. So they threw it in their content. They had a good jolly laugh about it and got all their audience members to make fun of me for going to therapy, make fun of me for going to church, make fun of the like they literally encouraged their audience to call me retard gaming, just breaking numerous community guidelines on YouTube with like every frickin' video. And they think it's funny. They think it's freaking funny. It's not funny. Your content's gross. Your content's bad for the platform. It encourages harassment and hate and toxicity. And you make a buck doing it, which is even worse. Like attacking people's mental health and their well-being and their livelihood and like giggling all the way about it. Like, I hope the ad revenue was worth it. And I got irritated right now. It usually doesn't bother me, but to see somebody I respected retweeting it and like calling me out like it's my fault, man, just, ugh. Thank you, Twisted Sin, for renewing your membership. He deleted it? Okay, well, respect. That's my point. It's like, I wish people would just look at that guy's account. It's freaking scary. He's the reason that we locked down all the membership stuff. He's the reason we locked it all down because of people like him. Like, it's disturbing. It's like people that hang out every day and hate watch and then get a gifted membership. I don't want to bring you into content that I share with paying members where my wife sits next to me. You seem unstable. You seem unwell. It's scary. It's unsettling to have to deal with that every single day. Like, check that guy's Twitter account. It's not normal. It's not right. And people encourage it, and they react to him, and they put him in their content, and they respond to him. People with platforms. No, Alex has never made fun of me for going to therapy. He told somebody I was only good for content, and I didn't feel like having another fake friendship because I've had enough of those. I've had enough of those in my life. Thank you for the 5-spot outsider. They're jealous what you have to that they can't have it. I don't even want to make it about that. I appreciate that he deleted it. It's so annoying. It's so frustrating that, like, in my experience with content creators, you're going to have fringe people that hate you and incessantly hurl hate at you, okay? I have never seen content creators with sizable platforms put that into their content like they do. That's where I get frustrated. It's like, I've been in this business long enough to know people are going to hate you. They're going to hurl hate at you. They're going to commit to hating you. I get that. That's fine. That's part of the business. That's not what bothers me. What bothers me is people legitimizing it and doing podcasts with people and talking about it. And it's gross. So I didn't mean to get sidetracked by that, but I like that Kirkland guy. I think Kirkland's said some really smart stuff. And it's like, why are you signal boosting this and calling me out? That's gross. I'm not supposed to do this. But sorry. I'm a real person that, gets affected by this stuff. And I don't want you guys to do what you're doing. Like, the content's never supposed to be about, name calling other people or tearing them down. I simply think that kind of content is awful, and I think it's bad for the platform, and I don't have any appreciation for it. So that's not what today's show is about. I'm sure it'll get clipped, and I'm sure people will misrepresent it, and that's fine. They've done that for over a year. I don't even remember what we were talking about before we got sidetracked. Helldivers is tomorrow. We're going to play Helldivers on Friday night. Listen, if you guys want to play with us on Friday night, VIPs, make sure you're in the Discord, especially the people paying for VIPs, because what we're going to do is we'll give you guys first dibs. We will give you guys first dibs. Hilly and I will be playing, but Helldivers is a 4-player game, so make sure anybody... because a lot of you have done that. A lot of you have paid that extra and you've leveled up or whatever. So make sure you're plugged into the Discord. There's like an extra room for you to do that. A lot of you have received gifted memberships today as well as yesterday. You can use those memberships. To get into our Discord. Our Discord does like a community gathering every weekend. It's a great way for you to sample the community. If you think we're cool, if you dig it, if you like hanging out with people, if you're looking for people to play Helldivers with, if you're looking for people to play video games with, our Discord is set up for that. So when you get gifted a membership, you can try that stuff out for 30 days, see if you like it. This Friday night is an open to all members Friday night. Sometimes Friday nights are only for paying members because I bring my wife on. But this Friday night is called a Hilly Hijink stream. Me and Hilly will be playing Helldivers. And we will be also playing with the community. So make sure you're here for that, especially if you've gotten gifted the membership. You can kind of try and tune in and try out a Friday night. Helldivers 2 solo run. I'm ready. I don't know if it's set up for that, but we were talking about the next console. Sneaky Wolf says, I think the next console will be a handheld cloud hybrid with a docking station like the Switch. I think the next console will be a handheld cloud hybrid with a docking station like the Switch. Now, the people that have said that, though, Sneaky Wolf, the people that have said that that's what's coming, the one rumor was that that's coming, but you're also going to get a high end. You're also going to get a high-end console. That's the part that I have a hard time believing. No, I'm not going to check out the demo for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I considered doing that today for the second stream, but I just know for a fact that's just not my jam. So I'm going to let the people that that's their jam, that's their game, let them do that. And a 20 bomb from MASH drops it and takes us all the way past 50. Thank you so much for doing that, MASH. And that puts us, that's an almost great leapfrog effect. Another 20 bomb would take us all the way to 75. I now owe you guys 5. That's Agent of Chaos move right there, MASH. Thank you guys so much for the generosity. Thanks so much for the love and support. I absolutely hate that I did that. I don't like that I did that. But for frick's sake, I should be able to every once in a while just, I don't know, be a human being. And I never checked Twitter during the show for that reason. I only went and checked Twitter because somebody said Jez had deleted his Twitter. And I'm like, what the frick? No, he didn't. Eugene says, why would I ever buy their high-end console when they're just going to hold it back? Right. Like, yeah, how do they... Well, here's the thing, Eugene. I wonder if they could launch a high-end console if it's a 2-tier with this cloud hybrid handheld. What if they turn the Series S into a cloud box? Then they can develop games to have high-end graphics and look awesome and be great. Because think about it like this, Eugene. If they are going the route of publishing the games on PlayStation, and there's the PS5 Pro, right? And so they've got that. They're building games for that. And let's say they do have this high-end Xbox and they have this handheld hybrid cloud thing. Well, they could still make high-end games, and you would just have to run those games on the Series S or the cloud hybrid. You'd have to run them on the cloud. That's what you'd have to do. Like, that wouldn't hold back the console. Because think about it, Eugene. If they start making games for multi-plat launches, the Series S can't be a factor anymore. It can't be. They've got to figure out a way to be like, listen, if you want to sell a game on the PlayStation 5 or the PlayStation 5 Pro, or fast forward to the PlayStation 6, you can't keep considering the Series S. You can't. I'm going to give you guys the 5 that I owe you now. That doesn't work. You can't do that, 6 years from now? 5 or 6 years from now? You guys are putting words of encouragement in chat, and I appreciate it. I really, really do. There's something sinister about poking somebody until they finally shout, and then using that shout to, like, indict their character. Like, there's just something so sinister and nasty about it. It's just so tiring. It's like, you can't say anything, and when you finally do, it's like, haha, see, we told you this guy was whatever. It's like, well, let's ignore the fact that you've done this for, 400 days in a row. You see what I said in response to you? Let me look, Sneaky. I think high-end is the docking station. Okay, well, here's the thing, Sneaky. I originally thought the next console is the cloud hybrid. I thought that. I thought that's the next console. It's this cloud hybrid. The recent rumor is you're going to get that cloud hybrid handheld, and you're also going to have a high-end console as well. That'll be the two-tier system like they have now. So the cloud hybrid handheld will be like the S, and they'll be like an X. They'll be like a stronger box. Part of me believes it, Part of me believes that they would want to have a high-end piece of console in the market because they're still going to be wanting to make high-end games. Like, you're not going to go to a studio like, let's say the next Gears of War is multi-plat and they want it on PlayStation. Well, they're going to go to them and say, buddy, you better make this game look great. You want to sell it on the PlayStation. You want to sell it on the PlayStation. You better make that game look incredible. Which stands to reason then you'd want, I think, to have an Xbox that also... The big reason it seems so backwards is because, historically speaking, they make and they sell the Xbox at a loss. And they get people to come over to that with exclusives. The minute you remove exclusives from the equation, like the minute you remove exclusives from the equation, suddenly that high-end hardware doesn't make any business sense. Yo, I1Bear, I should have given you a shout out in the monologue and I forgot to. You reminded me about what Phil Spencer said about Nintendo, and I included that in the show open. I was like, Phil Spencer says that Nintendo doesn't realize their future is off their own hardware. I was like, what if Phil Spencer said that? What if Phil Spencer said that because he's like, that's it. That's the future. Like, that our future, Xbox's future, it's not on our own hardware. Like, Phil's vision when he says that about Nintendo isn't like, oh, we need to get Nintendo over here on our hardware. He's thinking, no, the future is that you're not locking your games to your own hardware. He might have almost like in that moment kind of gave away, the cards he was holding in his hand. The idea that like, well, no, we're not going to do that. Yeah, Jez said that he was sad. It had nothing to do with the Xbox stuff. I think he said that he had been like away from family for too long. I can't imagine doing that right now. Guys, we are currently at 2854. That means we only need about 140. Actually, we only need about 130 more members. 130 more members, and you'll lock in the 3,000 goal. So this just needs to hit like 175, 180. You guys could go crazy. We could hit 3,000 before Friday, and then Friday night when we play Helldivers, Hilly cannot use a gun. Yeah, Jez just a little burned out. Like, it sounds like he's been away from family for too long. I can't imagine doing that. I would take trips for conferences and shoutcasting and stuff, and like, dude, I'd have extreme melancholy within like a day of being away from my wife and children. It's really tough. like my day to day, dude, I'm always seeing like getting hugs from the kids, playing with them. Last night we were playing games, and it's just like, being away from family, friends, relationships, that can really hurt you. Like, it can really hurt your mental state. Because those people kind of ground you, you know. One of the reasons I've been able to manage some of the pressure and some of the negativity and the toxicity, because it hits like such a fever pitch sometimes, which seems so unexpected. You gotta have people to ground you, you know. You gotta have people to keep you here on the ground, and not like lose yourself in the sea of it, right? Hilly says, "F that crap, no gun." Come on, guys. Hilly's in chat. Show him what we're made of, dude. Let's get this. Okay, hang on. Okay, I was just checking my email. I got the email about the gifted member receipt. Yo, good morning, Feed. I see you in the chat. Imagine me. I don't see my family for 3 years. Jeepers. I couldn't do that. Dante Masaru says, "Come on, boys. We can do it." Gifts 5 members and takes us all the way to 60. What's the best way to do it? What's the best way to do what exactly? Are you talking about the stuff I was just saying, or are you talking about like the hardware stuff with Xbox? Wife's leaving today for 3 business days. Having a boys' night with my dog. He's getting steak today. There you go. Okay, he apologized. Hang on. I told him I appreciated and only really responded because I respect you and saw you doing shows with my friend Ginger Prime. This crap has been going on for over a year and it's just tiring and gross. It just wears a person down, man. That level of incessant targeting, it just wears a person down. Like, I can only take so much before I'm going to say something. Perfect Image with 6 months says, "Hey, bro, you good at what you do? Didn't Xbox say case-by-case basics? I don't know why Xbox players are angry. There's Xbox on PlayStation. Does Sony need to go back to 2 PS3? I'm not sure what you mean at the end there, Perfect Image. If that's your membership that you're paying for, you want to bump up to the member tier at 6. But if that's a gifted member that somebody gifted to you, by all means, glad to have you here. Keep riding that. Yeah, the case-by-case basis thing, like, I made a joke about this whenever it first came out, right? I made a joke about it. I was like, well, I guess case-by-case basis, I guess it really was case-by-case basis, right? You know? Church and therapy. Okay, now everything makes sense. If I would believe in fairy tales also, I would need therapy. That's funny. I think I asked the most interesting questions, but Lono is suffering from success and my comments always get drawn out. All right, hang on a second, Shelly. How would you announce this Xbox multi-plat sitch if you were in charge? How do you deliver the news? Method strat. Okay, no, good question, Shelly. I'm sorry, Shelly. You actually usually do ask really good questions. That's why I typically read what you have to say, okay? Some people earn that reputation, right? Okay. So this is what I think they will do, and it's probably pretty much how I would handle it as well, okay? I think you walk out and say that the goal of Xbox has always been to deliver great games to as many people as possible. And now, with the acquisition of Activision Blizzard, we're in a unique position to put more games in more places than ever before. What this means is some titles will not stay exclusive to the Xbox console and will show up in places like PlayStation and Nintendo. Because at the end of the day, when everyone plays, we all win. I just frickin' made that up off the top of my head, but that's the frickin' crap. That's what you're gonna hear. That's what I would say. That's what I would say. I mean, what else is there to say? Like, they can't commit to the old way. They can't. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked, and it won't work. Nothing's gonna change the tide. You can only lean into the tide. Thrifty PS Game Reviews. My man Thrifty in here with 10 months, almost 1,000 people here. He says, hit that like button. Like button smashed. Thank you. Definitely here case by case. I don't know if they're going to say case by case. I think they'll say something like, you will see some exclusive titles moving to other platforms in the future. It's going to be super generic. They're not going to definitively say, not this. They're not going to say that, because the minute he says, oh, not Starfield, then what's the next question? What about this title, Phil? What about Elder Scrolls? What about this? 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 That's why he can't come out and say anything definitively about any titles. He has to say, generically, you're going to see some exclusive titles landing on other platforms. Like, he can't speak with specificity. It just invites a whole host of other. You know what somebody's going to say? Like, the very next day, if he says, yeah, there are titles like Starfield that will never come to other platforms, you know what people are going to say? Well, how do we know what those titles are, Phil? What titles aren't ever going to go to other? What is a true exclusive? What's not a true exclusive? It just creates more confusion. I don't think he's going to come out and do that. I don't think so. Yo, thank you, Jake, for 29 months. Says, King of the One Take. Thank you so much, Jake. I appreciate that. Citizen JV says, there's nothing wrong with getting therapy. It's a form of making you a better person for yourself and will continue yourself to improve and be more open about your feelings. Kudos to you. Listen, I've been going since 2018, man. If your arm was broken, you wouldn't sit around for a year and just deal with it, right? If you got things going on with your brain and the way you see yourself, the way you see others, and the way you see the world, getting help is admirable and courageous and a sign of strength. Get rid of this weird stigma, this fake masculinity, this big boys don't cry crap. Like, we cry all the time, and it's good for you. Like, go talk to somebody. Don't lock all that stuff up inside. It's death. It's absolute death. Don't integrate your personality and your identity and your personhood with a freaking brand. Because when then the brand doesn't do what you want or the brand is criticized, you take it personal. It's not healthy. Hilly says, doing PR for Xbox is easy mode. What about a 36-month badge? What are you going to say to a 3-year member looking like a 1-month Andy? Shut up, Hilly. Oh, you're saying blog, kind of funny podcast, video, pre-recorded, perfectly written monologue. Camera's going to pan up. Phil Spencer's going to be standing there. Maybe also with Sarah Bond. Here at Xbox, we're excited about the future, and today we're going to give you a glimpse into what that future is going to look like. We are pressing in to a variety of ways of taking our brand to new heights. First, hardware. We are committed to hardware innovation, new hardware deliveries, and there will be an Xbox console in the future. Game distribution. We are committed to taking our first-party property to as many places that we can. That means you're going to see Xbox exclusive titles landing on other platforms in the future, because we believe when everybody plays, everybody wins. Like, it's going to be like that. And he'll stop talking, and then Sarah will start talking, and we're all going to be like, oh, I'm so distracted by her great outfit or whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? They're always dressed really nice and the production's really high. Like, I think this is going to be another moment for them to transition her as the front person for the brand. I think she's going to be very good for the brand. I think people like her. You know, I think people have really liked Phil. I think that baton passing is important, and they might both be standing there. Is this guy related to Phil or knows what he will say? You sound just like him. Dude, I've watched enough Xbox showcases. I've watched enough Phil interviews. Like, I know how this goes. Like, I know how they talk. It's like they're going to calm some of the fear. They're going to calm some of the sky is falling. But they're also going to make sure that you know, bro, this is happening. Did you ever take acting classes? Long time ago, yeah. And I've also sat in front of a camera for 9 years almost. In 2 months, I'll have been live streaming for 9 years. But yeah, I was in drama in high school. I ended up doing the tech. I wanted to do the lighting and the tech stuff. John always says, we have to apologize for not being clear with communicating our strategy to our loyal user base. Last year's purchase of ABK has made us reevaluate how best to deliver great games wherever you play. No, they're not going to use games like reevaluate. No, they're not going to say apologize. They're not going to say reevaluate. It's going to be, we're excited about the future of Xbox, and we think you're going to be excited too. It's absolutely... Lono's thrash was pretty good the other day. Thanks for watching this video. He says that really fast. And he's like, look. I tried to tell you this was going to happen. But you wouldn't listen. Oh, man. The thing is, I don't think they apologize. I don't think they say they've reevaluated. It's, we're excited about the future. We think you're going to be excited too. Here's where things are going. This will be painted as a positive. It will be. Dude, they're not... You don't walk out. You don't walk out right before frickin' DICE and apologize. You don't do that. Look. He always starts his videos that way. Yeah. He's got colorful language, but I think he's funny. People have given me grief for following him and watching his videos. I'm like, he's funny. You know? Never targeted me. He's never been mean to me. Can't say that for the other side. He'll do a blog write-up, and they're intense to go 1 year time exclusivity on all titles, day and date, stays on Game Pass. Then he finishes with all Xbox accounts will get a $50 gift card if you click this button. Yeah, I'm not willing to put money on the table and say whether or not they do like a blog or a video. I think the video hits with more of a sign of strength because you put your face to it. You come out and you speak to it. Like a blog feels so clinical and just so cold. Right? Yeah, Doc Dark is very entertaining. I also really like Doc Dark. I really do. He's a friend of the show. I've had him on numerous times. I really like him. All right, I tell you what we're going to do. This is a great reason to gift members. This is a great reason to be a member. I'm going to switch the chat to members only, and you guys can turn this into a bit more of an AMA. And And this is a great reason to push that member number. We are very, very close. We're within about, we're about 100 members away. We are about 100 members away from hitting 3,000 members. If you've been gifted a membership today, flex that membership right now in chat. You can chat. You can ask me maybe more broader questions, maybe more personal, maybe more AMA. Try to keep it around gaming, right? We try to keep it around gaming. And now's a great time to gift members. Let people kind of see what they get into when they get a gifted membership. And then on Friday night, we'll be playing Helldivers 2, me and Hilly. It's going to be hilarious. If you've been gifted a membership, you can watch members' content for the next month and really, really enjoy that. We were at 2854. Just amazing, amazing sign of strength as a community today. We appreciate you so, so much. You don't have well-spoken and good-looking people like Sarah and Phil to just write a blog. I think the same thing. Like, we talked about that the other day. Like, I think it has to be uniquely frustrating to be like an attractive woman in this space because like everybody always talks about how pretty you are. But we do have to admit that is a part of the business and the industry. You want good-looking folks out in front. It's human nature. It's psychology. There's research behind it. Like, yes, her being attractive certainly is going to play a part in the fact that they like having her out on the front lines. I've always thought Phil Spencer's a sharp-looking guy. He's well-dressed. You know, he seems like a relatable guy. Like, he doesn't seem like a corporate suit that much. You know, he's usually wearing like a T-shirt and a jacket. You know, he's got the middle-aged cool guy outfit on. And I think that's important, right? Sadly, I think that's always going to be a part of the narrative, like anytime they do a showcase, you know, is that. Hey, Raven gifts 5. If you guys just got gifted 5 members, you can now talk in the chat. We briefly do a members-only chat at the end of the show so people can kind of ask about anything. We're a 10 bomb away from 75, and I'll owe 5 more, getting us even closer to the goal. If I was an Xbox player, I would take the news a lot better if they sent me a $50 gift card. That's a great way to ease that. Yeah, but again, sending a $50 gift card just communicates it like they did wrong. They didn't do anything wrong to you. I mean, we could go back in time and say that they really sold a vision of Xbox that's not coming to fruition, but how much of what has transpired has been emergent properties of the business? Right? They failed to get enough raw materials to build the Series X, had to pivot to the Series S. As they started selling, they didn't have enough games for launch, so that hurt hardware demand. As they fell behind on that, they fell behind on not just hardware demand, but footprint. Like, it's like nobody's wanting to buy and all of that starts to come to this. They hit a point where they said, listen, our path out of this is buying property and shifting into more of a publishing role. That's what Satya basically said during the shareholders call. That's what he said. The goal isn't to make you happy. The goal is to amass as much cash as possible. Your happiness is only a possible side effect. Mash says, agreed. It's very rough being this attractive. The struggles are real. Yes, no, everyone's always just constantly talking about how good looking you are. It's very tiring, you know? It's very distracting every day. I have to ignore a lot of the comments in chat about how good looking I am. You know, it's difficult. I don't see that happening. They are doing this to make money. They're not going to just give money away. Yeah, I don't think so. Yo, what's good, Score Bunny? How am I doing today? I'm good. This business meeting, let's just be clear about something. This business meeting, it's not about apologizing or making you feel better. It's not. There's elements to this where they're wanting to quiet some of the sky is falling. You know, the sky is bad. I'm sorry, the future is bleak. Xbox is dead. Certainly, right? Certainly, there is an element of, yeah, we got to get out in front of this. But you need to understand something. This was going to happen regardless how we found out. So them telling us next week is purely reactionary, which means whatever they tell you, you have to look at it through that lens. This wasn't voluntary. This wasn't, oh yeah, we need to make sure and get out here and say this. So you've got to remember that next week when he comes out. It's like, this wasn't planned. This was supposed to happen at the end of the month as far as we know. Jeff Grubb said they were planning on doing something end of February. Other sources said that Sarah Bond was going to talk about the future of Xbox in the spring. And now all of a sudden, yeah, next week we're going to have a business meeting. 100% this is reactionary, which means they were going to do this anyway. They're just going to tell you earlier because it got so crazy. That doesn't mean they're walking anything back. It doesn't mean they're changing course or changing plans. The economics have been obviously bad for so long, they're changing the economics. That's exactly right. One last question. What's the worst way they could announce this thing? A worst case scenario? Oh, the worst case scenario would be like a tweet or something. Yeah, Eugene, it might have been because we switched to members only. I'm still getting over not feeling well, sorry. I'm not trying to like sniff on the mic, but I'm like still not all the way out of it. Next week or at the end of the month, it was going to happen either way. Yeah, I think in the grand scheme of like worst way to best way to handle this, like tweet's pretty bad, a blog post is pretty bad, an interview's better, a video is best. Like that's the spectrum I view it. It's like tweet, are you kidding me? Blog post, are you kidding me? Interview, well, okay, that's a little bit better. And then video. Video's the best. Video is they control the messaging, they control the script. You know, I think it's a shine. I think it's a sign of strength. Stephen Jones, dude, welcome to Gifted. We tried to name the membership so people would see. There's Gifted, there's Member, there's VIP. That's basically the sample entrance membership, but it gets you into the Discord. It gets you into the chat right now. And after sampling the content and the membership and the community, if you decide you like it, you're going to want to bump up to the $6 tier. But feel free to stay at the Gifted tier for the month. See if you like the community. Get plugged in the Discord. Get involved. And that moves the number to 66. Thank you so much for doing that. We're now 9 away from 75. If we hit 75, I'll give 5 more members to the community as well. Somebody's saying theirs is doing the same thing. The chat's doing the same thing. Yeah, it's probably because it's almost 100% because I turned on members only. Maybe it messed with it. Would Sony get more players like SOCOM, Resistance, Heavy Rain? These are just examples because all I see is a lot of zombie games. Yeah, I've talked about this a lot before. I just don't see Sony investing in building, paying for, publishing. I don't see them doing that with a Call of Duty competitor or Call of Duty type game. It just seems like such a bad investment. So much of their community, so much of their consumer base is very, very much like they love Call of Duty and that's all they play. And you have to consider the fact that like the people that a game like that would appeal to, sure, it's a Venn diagram. There are people over here that don't play Call of Duty that would be excited about some kind of like, you know, SOCOM shooter thing. But then largely there's overlap with the Call of Duty community. And the concern would be that the Call of Duty community would be like, no, thank you. Or they would play for a little bit and then go right back to Call of Duty. Companies are very risk averse right now. They're not going to take risks. That's why you're seeing remasters, remakes, and sequels, as well as you're seeing smaller studios have breakouts and big success because the big studios are trying to find their way because they're, you know, Xbox Era said they were told by their sources to publish a couple days early because it was basically a done deal by the weekend. Really? I can't believe these weirdos come at you online. If they remove their preconceived notions, they'd enjoy you and realize you're on their side. You can't help some people, man. You really, really can't. You know? Calling me a grifter and a pony, it may make you feel good for a moment, but it's not accurate. And, you know... Licensed games are kind of making a comeback with Hogwarts, Avatar. What's a franchise that you think that would work well as a game that hasn't been used yet? A franchise that hasn't been used yet? Well, we know Insomniac has plans for X-Men. I think that's just an easy dunker if you do it right. That's a great question, honestly. I don't know what the demand for Thundercats or Voltron would be, but those come to mind. Like, if you did a really cool cel-shaded... Did you guys see that video game called Myth Force? It didn't do very well, but the art style was really cool. It looked like a Saturday morning cartoon. Rachel says jerkies. Which is that? You're saying you're saying that would be a franchise to do? A good Dune game? Yeah, E.T. But, like, if you did a Thundercats game, like, in that cartoon, Saturday morning cartoon art style that, like, Myth Force did, that could be pretty awesome. Can you imagine a really awesome He-Man game? Like, third person, really grisly combat, heavy, like a heavy broadsword. That could be awesome. Insomniac just tweeted. What'd they tweet about? Are they doing something? A John Wick game? Yeah, I mean, you could almost do a John Wick game as like the spiritual successor to Max Payne. What's Insomniac Games saying? What are they saying? Our next update is coming March 7th. Our title update for Marvel's Spider-Man 2 arrives next month and adds highly requested features like new game plus, new suits, and more. Watch our social media for a complete list of features closer to release. Man, these freaking companies just won't stop, dude. Gee-many. Next month. Next month, dude. A Lord of the Rings game? There's been some Lord of the Rings games, so I don't know if that, you know, would we... Highly requested features like coming to PC so the adults can play it. Yeah, a Highlander game could be pretty awesome. Oh. What if the company that trademarked and trademarked or patented the Nemesis system making a Highlander game? Right? Wouldn't that work within that game's sort of lore? The whole there can be only one thing, a Nemesis system. People are always coming for you. That'd be kind of crazy. And what if you lose the fight, you would become that Highlander? Can you imagine? That could be pretty creative mechanic. They could build almost a rogue element into the game where if you win, you get stronger and you build and you get more perks and abilities. But if you lose, you have to suddenly play as the Highlander you lost to. And now you have a whole new random set of perks and abilities. That would be kind of fun. That would be kind of cool. I also think with the increase in, graphical fidelity and power and what people have been able to do, with slow down and everything, we could get a really great Matrix video game. I don't know if we've ever really gotten a great one. I think we've gotten some okay ones, but what feature do you want on the next gen Nintendo console? 60 FPS. I don't care if the art style of Zelda stays the same or Mario. I don't care. I think their art style is always so on point. Like, if you just gave me Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild at 60 FPS, I'm good. Welcome back, Ginger. Ginger, I appreciate what you said on Twitter. I hope he realizes, like, I really like him. I was like, this guy's a thoughtful guy. I was following him. You know, so I felt like I was cordial, but also firm in, like, you know, what I said to him. There's a few decent Matrix games, but nothing outstanding. How about a He-Man or Thundercats game? Yeah, we already said He-Man, like a really, really cool grizzly He-Man with, like, big broadsword magic and big, you know, really awesome melee fights. Not quite Dark Souls, not quite, you know, God of War, but, like, somewhere in between. He's new, he's learning. I can appreciate that. There are other people that I have a little less tolerance for. A lot of people have signal boosted that guy, and it's just is like, come on, man, check the account, please. How does Xbox going multiplat influence Sony's third-party timed exclusivity deals? Will they stop making them? Will Nintendo's next Switch take up Xbox's position to compete for third-party exclusives? No Nintendo. Hang on, I'm thinking. I'm like crunching. Like, what did Doc say the one time? I'm buffering in real life. I actually think that if Nintendo can build a very winsome piece of hardware that can be leveraged by people building games right now, that would be the question. Switch 2 is apparently a long ways out still. Oh, I'm pretty sure it's coming this year from all the hardware reports and things that we've seen, but I mean, I don't know, maybe not. Especially because their sales are finally slowing down. They're just now, which is insane. But I think if they could really leverage some of the stuff we're hearing about, like DLSS and stuff, they would be a very winsome offer because everybody knows that they have the potential to saturate the market really well. 1 in every 4 persons in Japan has a Nintendo Switch. If you look at the population of Japan versus the number of Switches sold there, like, it's absurd the saturation they have. Like, it's that is power. That's power, and people are going to want to be on that system. That's why you're seeing a lot of late gen Nintendo Switch ports and, like, cloud versions of games because people suddenly realized, oh my gosh, we need to be over there. It's a little difficult because of the weakness of the Switch. What do you think about the idea of Xbox just becomes a PC and allowed for all stores on the system? PC with ease of console. Now, that's something I haven't ever considered. So what you're describing is I would buy the box. You know, maybe they have a couple different versions of the box to buy. You know, the high end, the mid-level, and the cloud version. You got, like, your cloud hybrid and, you know, up. So the one at the top is basically a gaming rig, but they don't call it a gaming rig because of the consumer perception. But it's basically a gaming rig. Okay, so they do that. And then they say, you know, you can buy Steam, you can install Steam, you can buy PlayStation games here, you can buy Epic games here. I guess my only thought would be, how do they benefit from that? That feels like they're becoming a hardware distributor. Now, if they want a cut of every Steam game sold, every PlayStation game sold, maybe, then there's revenue stream there. Like, we know that Apple, with their 30% cut, they make more than every other gaming company combined. And Xbox with Steam, Epic, Battle.net, etc. And then Xbox says, we don't care where you buy, you'd have Spider-Man on Xbox. Well, you wouldn't have Spider-Man on Xbox. Yeah, see, that gets muddy because I feel like PlayStation wouldn't mind if it was basically a PC and you could get, like, Spider-Man on Steam. But I don't know if PlayStation would like the idea of their first-party property showing up on something called an Xbox. I think that would be contrary to their goals. PlayStation would be very reticent to do that, I think. And that because even right now, PlayStation doesn't let you do that on PC. They're day and dating some games like Helldivers because of its multiplayer aspect. And according to Insomniac's internal reports, day and date may be coming, but seemingly only if there's an online component. Because apparently there's going to be an online or a multiplayer component with Spider-Man 3, so Spider-Man 3 will be day and date on PC and PlayStation. Now that could be the catalyst game to say, well, going forward we can do day and date on PC because they'll have such a market foothold with the PlayStation hardware. They're not worried about people leaving PlayStation to go to PC. But I still don't know if they would, even in that scenario, would they want games also landing on something called an Xbox. Oh, they would just rebrand it a Surface Box. I think that would maybe open the door. I'm not saying that PlayStation would sign on the dotted line, Ginger, but if it wasn't called Xbox and it was just viewed as more of a I think something would need to happen before that, Ginger. You would need to have PlayStation Studios and their exclusive deals building games also for PC. Because essentially that's what you're describing. And currently we know that they're against doing parallel development. They build a great piece of product first, launch it on PlayStation, and then they have porting companies like Nixxes that bring it to PC later. That seems like a really good system because we know that developers have said games come out better, they're more optimized, and it's just easier to develop for one ecosystem, for one gaming system. And then the porting companies are so good at what they do. I don't see parallel development happening unless there's an online component like with Helldivers 2. Thank you, Jeff England, for 5 months of memberships. Keep up the great content. Thank you very much. As a reminder, right now, the chat is members only. Guys, we're 9 away from 75. I'll give 5 more. We're really close. We're about 90 away from the stretch goal, the big goal of 3,000 members. We're actually closer than we've been in a while, so you can help us get there. If you're currently paying for your own membership, you don't want to be on the $5 a month. You want to be on the $6. $5 a month is now for gifted only, which you still get into some of the content in the Discord, but you really want to be at that $6 tier. Even if it's not parallel, you'd see Xbox, again in quotes, that releases their games and evolves into them being Windows. I just don't know. What makes the most sense to me, Ginger, is Xbox creates a cloud hybrid access point that maybe also is a portable device. That's their future hardware endeavors. And Xbox Game Pass, the Xbox ecosystem, is cloud, handheld, mobile, TV, PC. And then they're just taking their games and they're launching them anywhere they can. So Elder Scrolls 6 will hit PlayStation day and date, but also be available day and date on Game Pass. Now, again, we're hearing rumors that Game Pass is going to change, and day and date some people think might be under threat. Because, again, you're dealing with Microsoft. Microsoft's going to be like, we need some ROI on this. Brooklyn says, YOLO, bump up to VIP. Yeah, the bump up to VIP is guaranteeing you get into everything. Instead of $5 a month, it's 10, and you get into literally everything. There's a weekly VIP segment, and then for Friday night segments like we're going to do this week with Helldivers, VIPs, they get first dibs on playing with Hilly and I. If you guys haven't done so yet, man, smash that like button. We're really close to 500 likes. If Xbox allows other stores, they lose a large percentage of their revenue. It won't be worth it. Yeah, bump up to VIP and Creature will call you an a-hole. That's exactly right. Yeah, I continue to think that the path forward for Microsoft when they look at gaming, it's what Satya said. Like, I just feel like Satya's answer was so simplistic. It was like, The question was very, very broad. What's the future and health of Xbox? And he doesn't go into this like, we have a variety of things we're really excited about with new hardware and next generation hardware power and Game Pass. No. He's like, oh yeah, Xbox, the future and the health of Xbox? We can finally do what we've always set out to do. Make great games and put them on all platforms. That's what he thinks of Xbox. That's incredibly telling that the CEO of Microsoft is like, oh yeah, Xbox. He doesn't view it as a console. He doesn't view it as like hardware. He views it as, yeah, we're publishing, baby. That's where the money's at. If you're talking to shareholders, what's he going to talk about? What's the CFO talking about? They're talking about, this is where we make the most money, because that's what those people care about. They've been telling us the direction for a long time. When everyone plays, we all win. That's exactly right. Reforge, PS4 and PS5 first-party games are zombie games except Ghost and Rise of the Ronin. Why is that? What do you mean they're zombie games? Is Horizon Forbidden West a zombie game? Is Ratchet & Clank a zombie game? Is God of War Ragnarok a zombie game? What? What are you talking about? Huh? What zombie games? You talking about Days Gone and The Last of Us? They're not the only first-party games coming out. What about Returnal? Is Returnal a zombie game? The unhinged response by the Xbox community just signals that they want to be part of the #1 platform. All they want to do is win. Yeah, is Gran Turismo 7 a zombie game? You answered yes? Staller? Yes? What's going on, Perfect Image? Are you goofing around? I don't feel like you're being serious. This doesn't seem like a serious inquiry. Julio with 25 months in a VIP. Unfiltered Creature. Easy VIP incentive. Don't miss out. Thank you so much, Julio. Lono, when you get a chance, check your DM on Twitter for a good laugh. What? You sending me funny stuff? What'd you sending me? What do we got here? If anything bad happens to Xbox, there are 3 things to blame for it. The Xbox One failure. I actually think that's not wrong. Putting games on PC, Xbox Game Pass. If you blame Xbox fans that stuck around... Good. Huh? I don't have a response, dude. Answer is simple. Xbox was fighting over the console pie and saw lots of different pies. Since we can't win the console pie, I'll just take a bigger piece of everyone's pie and call it a day. No. I relate it to, have you guys ever watched the movie The Founder? Right? In The Founder, there's a part where BJ Novak's character tells the main character that he tells Michael Keaton's character, you're not in the restaurant business, you're not in the food business, you're in the real estate business. And he basically gives him the strategy, and this is how this guy completely took over McDonald's. He went and he bought all the land underneath the franchises. Xbox suddenly realized, we're not in the console business. We're not. We are in the software business. And how do you win software? How do you win the content war or the software war? How do you do it? You want to own the most of it. You want to be the one with the distribution and the publishing rights, because then you're the one, you're the piper. Everybody's got to pay the piper, and you're the piper. You've got all the stuff. Oh, yeah, you want Elder Scrolls? Oh, yeah, you want Fallout 5? Oh, yeah, you want these games? No problem. We'll build them for you, and we'll take that really juicy 30% cut. And we don't have to distribute hardware anymore. We don't have to take a loss on a Series X as our hardware market shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. We can go to where all these other people have done all the work for us. All those McDonald's had already been out there. They'd already been established. And what'd he do? He went and bought the land underneath of them. And what's Xbox saying? Nintendo and PlayStation and Steam, they've done all the work for us. All we've got to do is buy up the games, make the games, and put them in all those places. That's where the money is. It's like PlayStation's crushing it with market saturation. Why wouldn't you just like ride on that? Like just ride that wave. Look at the Nintendo Switch. If the Nintendo Switch 2 benefits and there's like a reverberation from Switch owners and the Nintendo Switch 2 explodes with market saturation, you want to be on that platform. You want to be selling your software on that platform. Why fight that fight anymore? It's pointless. It goes right back to my point, says Ginger. They want to own the IP. And if you buy on PlayStation, Steam, etc., it doesn't matter. Thus, why have a console? The answer is, I believe, they'll just be PC. They own Windows. They own the cloud. This is them buying land under everything. Right? Yes, that's the analogy. Exactly right. I still think they have some kind of a console presence, some kind of a cloud access point, but there is just no financial incentive for them to continue the cost for the hardware, the amount of raw materials that they need, the R&D, the distribution, the demand. It just isn't there. It's like, why would you do that? You spent this entire generation convincing people to buy a $200 console. Like a cheaper console. Did I say that wrong? It's $200? What's the Series S going for now? What is it? $300. I'm sorry, I misspoke. They've spent this entire generation convincing people to buy a $300 console. That's not a runway to come back to those consumers later and be like, hey, we have a really strong next gen box and you're going to sell it for $400 or $500 and now it's a loss lead, but a loss lead for what? A loss lead for what? You own enough property. You don't need the loss lead anymore on hardware. You just need to sell software. Eugene says, why does everyone ignore the red ring of death? That was the start. Over 1/3 of their consumers had multiple hardware failures. Their base went from 80 million to 50 million. That's over 1/3. The numbers don't lie. Yeah, I do think sometimes, Eugene, the causality of like what happened in the Xbox One era, it did start with high numbers of hardware failure in the 360 era. And instead of like coming back swinging in the Xbox One era and winning back goodwill and winning back consumer confidence, they just loaded the shotgun and boom, shot a hole in the boat. Always online, connect, TV. It was more expensive. Like, they couldn't have marketed the Xbox One worse on the heels of a generation where people were constantly dealing with hardware failure. Like, if you were going to win people back, be like, hey, this is going to be a better era. This is going to be the new era. They didn't do that at all. They gave everybody plenty of reasons to be like, Xbox One, Xbox none. I'm good. I'm going over here. And when they lost that gen, it meant that this gen, I'm be real with y'all, it's a stopgap. The Series X and the Project Scarlet marketing, it all feels like a stopgap. It's like, we've just got to stay in the market a little bit longer. We've just got to maintain a presence and go to these events and continue to get people to kind of stay in the ecosystem and Game Pass, and we've got to procure some of these deals and some of these companies just a little bit longer. Because the real strategy is we need to make a big purchase or a couple of big purchases and get into software distribution. It's why Satya Nadella said, this is what we've always set out to do. Phil Spencer convinces them to stay in the fight, and they do. And along the way, I think they started to realize this has been set in motion. The trajectory for this aircraft carrier cannot be altered. All we can do is change what we do with what we've got. Instead of like trying to turn against the tide, oh no, let's take on PlayStation. That's why Phil got so candid with Kinda Funny. He's like, there isn't a world where we out-console them. It's over. I still see them buying up more IP. Oh, you better believe it. You better believe it. They start to get a taste of the ROI of Call of Duty on mobile as well as PlayStation. They start to get a taste for like porting games over to PlayStation and Nintendo. They're going to be looking for who's next. Who do we buy next? Who sells well? Who sells well on PlayStation? Keep an eye on those companies. Keep an eye on those companies. That's prime real estate. In Microsoft's mind, that's prime real estate. That's like, hey man, we're making a ton of money on this. Let's buy some more. Preacher says yes, they start getting that profit from publishing and they'll buy anything that can't outrun them. You think with more IP they buy, they tank more studios too? That's the concern, Adam. Yes, is that they turn into another Embracer group. Is that you start seeing studio foreclosures and studios canceled, because when you get that large, the problem is the slightest like ripple in the market, it's like, whoa. If there's a slight amount of ripple in the market with inflation, or if currency value fluctuates across the globe, companies of this size will absolutely take the studios to the threshing floor, because they're going to say, listen, we are way too large. We simply cannot sit by and watch revenue fluctuations, currency value fluctuations in the Asian market, European market, American market. Once you get that large, you can't just be like, oh, well, we're so big, it's no big deal. It's no. The shareholders must be satiated. We simply cannot weather this. Any inflation, any rising operating costs, any fluctuations of currency values in the major markets, and they will certainly do that. Studios gone. Layoffs, massive. 100%. Embracer Group had one potential deal go belly up on them. That's all that happened. And look at what they're having to do in response. Embracer Group has a potential deal go belly up, and what do? They're like, oh my gosh. And they have to satisfy, they have to fix that. And so what do? They just start chopping studios' heads off. That's the danger when you get that large, when you amass that much property. It's like what do they do in the movies, right? When the boat starts to sink, they just start throwing everything overboard. Why? Because staying afloat's all that matters at that point. If you start to sense like disruption, loss, or problems, that's your first pathway to protecting your margins and keeping your shareholders happy, is you just immediately start laying off and downsizing, because production cost instantly goes down. It's like the bloodletting of the industry, right? You just immediately release that pressure. Like, bloodletting doesn't work, which a lot of the times this doesn't work either. That's why I'm saying that. A lot of times the layoffs are a contagion. They don't actually yield the results. It just yields immediate results, not like long-term results. Embracer's dumb enough to think that studios would follow them through the deal. Why wouldn't Embracer sell some IPs to stay afloat? Doesn't that make more sense? Well, Bolton, you have to understand something. Right now, I don't know if it's a buyer's market just yet, because everybody is still restabilizing from the overhiring from 3 and 4 years ago. Now, once they stabilize, then I think you might see it becomes a buyer's market again. You start to see these companies saying, let's go buy that studio from Embracer. Let's go buy this. Let's go buy that. They're going to start targeting those things. What's likely to happen is this year is going to be a bloodbath. I think this year you're going to see more and more layoffs, more and more studio foreclosures, and then the industry will stabilize. They'll say, okay, we overhired, we overextended, and we've now kind of brought things back down to a nice stable ground zero. And then as things start to trend back upwards, because everybody's going to sell a bunch of game sales this year. Like the gaming industry is about to have a massive year of revenue. That will then lead into next year being more of an upswing, and you'll probably start to see acquisitions initiated late this year and start taking place into next year. Again, I'm not a financial expert, but that's what I think is going on right now, because the financial experts and the analysts, they're saying there's more coming. There's more layoffs coming. We're still stabilizing from 3 or 4 years ago. Embracer has partnered with Amazon on some IP like Lord of the Rings and Tomb Raider, and I do wonder if they get in trouble when they own a lot of IP that they can't sell. What about buying by committee? The big three own shares and can't do anything to materially damage the other. Mutually assured destruction. These gaming... I don't know. These gaming companies thought COVID growth would continue after COVID, like a bunch of a-holes. Yeah. AI will have real impact on a lot of jobs this year. I don't know. AI is... In some sectors, AI is the bottom's falling out right now. I don't think AI has the strength just yet to displace jobs at a mass level. I don't think it has I don't think it has the sophistication yet. A lot of the AI companies are already having massive financial trouble. Like, I don't think AI's there yet. I think we're seeing the beginnings. I don't think AI makes landfall on job displacement for a couple of years. The reports I'm seeing are that the AI companies are in a bad spot right now. They mushroomed too fast. And everything's slowing down with AI, which means that they're not, a lot of the AI companies are now not sustainable. They're in trouble. A lot of independent studios. Yeah, I think you'll see smaller studios. I think you'll see side-loading AI stuff that comes in and helps. Like, I think the first presence of AI we see in gaming that like becomes like almost more tangible than it is now, I actually think is with QA. I think QA companies are going to start to try to leverage AI to sell their services to big studios. I don't know if like the voice acting and all of that, I don't know if that's happening as soon as people were thinking. It just doesn't feel like it's quite strong enough just yet. I think it'll happen. I think AI will become more sophisticated and it will become better at what it does. And in about 5 years, there will be entire sectors of companies that are not needed anymore. That's just the reality. If you're in game dev right now, you need to be keeping an eye on the AI and making sure that maybe you diversify in your skill set so that you're more valuable or can pivot to another department. QA is going to be hard. I don't know how much that could really use AI. I think there's a lot of automation and there's a lot of machine learning that could be leveraged for bug testing, because they already do a lot of that anyway, and that would be a selling point of a QA company. I don't think QA gets displaced. I think they start leveraging it to say, we can expedite our process with AI, with machine learning. We've got tools that have made what we do faster and more accurate. Again, that's more complementary, that's more additive than like, oh, it's going to supplant people. Yeah, the voice acting and all of that. I don't know if you're going to get to that point anytime soon. I think that takes longer than some people have. People were very sky is falling about it. I don't think it's quite as dire as people were saying. Same with analytics. I'm studying AI implementation now for Adobe Analytics. Yeah, it's just now out there on the horizon. Like it really I don't think it's going to make landfall this year. I don't think you're going to see like entire departments or persons displaced by AI. So, guys, in a little bit, we don't like these streams to exceed 3 hours. So just a few more minutes here. We're going to hang out. We only need 9 more members. That would put us at 2880 plus my 5 would put us at 2885. That would mean we were only 90 members away from the goal because my memberships also get added to the goal of 3,000. So if you guys want to go crazy, now would be a great time to do that and keep that momentum. So that we don't lose tomorrow. If we hit 3,000 before Friday, we're going to do something really fun on Friday night with Hilly. Let me go ahead and schedule Writer's Room. This is something reserved for $6 members and above. Gifted members, you can plug in to the Discord. You can come to Friday night streams when they're community game nights, or this Friday with Hilly. Streams with my wife, sometimes we let you come to those and we just put like a little emoji in front of her, but we generally reserve that for paying members only. So I'd like to see the data Lono's talking about because AI is definitely growing. I saw at least 2 financial reports that AI companies are facing financial troubles already. They just mushroomed too fast. AI is not the overnight explosion that I think some people thought it was going to be. Some of the AI protocols are getting dumber with time. They're going to take more sophistication and more work to get to a better place. So, again, I'm not decrying it and saying that it's a fool's errand and it's not going anywhere. I think AI went like this. It just shot up and now it's settling back down. Like market confidence isn't there just yet. There's a lot of reasons why people are like, whoa. I don't know if I want to invest or be a part of this AI company just yet. So now the AI companies are facing, like basically they got too big and now there's the financial backing's not going to be there. It has setbacks, but that's temporary. Yeah, these are setbacks. It doesn't mean AI is not happening. It just means I think it's going to be slower than originally people thought because they are facing setbacks. They're facing legal trouble. There's a lot of things that are going to log jam some of the AI, growth that I think people were expecting to see. So you are going to see it though. It just isn't going to be quite as fast as I think some people thought. There we go. Yo, Captain Toasty Buns coming back in with another membership. Renewing it. Perfect Image, are you still claiming these games are all zombies? Last of Us, Bloodborne, Killzone, Shadowfall. Well, Killzone, Shadowfall hasn't been around for a long time, and neither has Bloodborne. Horizon Zero Dawn is not zombie. First party PS4, all ones you're going to defend the exception. Horizon Forbidden West, Returnal Days Gone. I don't know why you keep spamming that. Yeah, and Stellar Blade's not zombies. I'm really confused why you're trying to claim that like Horizon Forbidden West, God of War Ragnarok, Returnal, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Spider-Man 2. Why are you claiming these are all zombie games? I'm very, very confused. Ryan Hayer with 29 months in a VIP. Welcome back. Love to see those red badges in chat. Guys, let's slam out the last 9 here real quickly. I'll give 5, and then that'll give those people an opportunity to get into the Discord, and that'll put us in a really nice spot for tomorrow to hit that big goal. Thank you to everybody who has already gifted today. Huge, huge day on the channel. Lots of new subscribers as well. If you're a brand new subscriber to the channel, we appreciate that very, very much. Tsushima Zombie was my favorite mode. It's low-tier bait. I think calling it bait is generous. AOZ, my man, coming in with 5, puts us right on the doorstep of 71. Let's crank this out really quickly and get the heck out of here, man. Thank you so much, AOZ. If you guys just got a gifted membership, be sure to say thank you to AOZ. And make sure you go into the Discord. It's linked below in the description, man. Plug in, get involved. This community does like a voice call every weekend. They all hang out. They're playing games together. It is an awesome, awesome community. Very, very generous. If you're looking for people to play games with, you're in the right spot. Clearly, they're corrupted zombie robots. Yeah, I mean, I would say that it's more of a dinosaur game than a zombie game. Most of what you're fighting are essentially dinosaurs. You got any dinosaurs on your dinosaur tour? Ben would argue even Days Gone freakers aren't zombies. Yeah, it's a zombie game. That's okay. It's a different take on zombies for sure. Yo, Joker Quinn makes it a little bit easier and takes us to 72. Thank you so much. Couple more singles to walk us to the doorstep. I'll drop 5 on chat. Hopefully we'll get these people in the Discord, get to know them, and get them plugged into the community. Thank you so much for doing that, Joker Quinn. Likely an AI out of control spam bot. Yeah, I'm just not sure. I'm just really not sure what the point is. Ryan Hare gifts 1. Thank you so much. Last of Us isn't zombies either. Thank you, Ryan Hare, for taking us to 73 members on the day. Yeah, I mean, Last of Us, they're fungus. They're not zombies. To be fair, Days Gone and The Last of Us very much fall into the zombie lane. Sure. We get pedantic with takes like that. That's allowed. And said frenzied robots are zombies. That's my point. Your point is that what? You just label everything a zombie? Are you a zombie? Like, what's the matter with you? What's the matter with you? You're just labeling everything a zombie. Big, giant robot dinosaurs. Those are zombies. Come on, man. You can't expect us to take you serious. You're being goofy. It's not a serious position. It doesn't feel genuine. God of War? Yeah, God of War zombies? You're fighting like trolls and like mythical monsters. Lono asking the real questions. Wait, are we all zombies? Like what? Does the zombie have RPG elements? Keithius puts us 1 away from 75. Who's going to take the glory and snap it off at 75? And then I'll gift the 5 that I owe. And then we're going to head to Writer's Room. We appreciate you guys and the support of the channel so much today, man. Thank you very much. He wants you to think that Sony isn't creative. Yeah, I was told today that all Sony does make is they all just make third-person action-adventure movie games. That's all they make, apparently. And I was like, yeah, you forgot to mention they're also Game of the Year nominated and Game of the Year winning games. You know, and they're like, well, how popular are? How much do they sell? I was like, you could start with Spider-Man 2. They're like, well, that's a popular title. Oh, okay, we'll just compare all the other big first-party pieces of property like Horizon and Uncharted and God of War, and go ahead and compare those to Spider-Man 2. And when you're done doing that, stop peddling nonsense on my timeline. Thank you so much for a gifted member. There it is, 75. Let me gift the 5 that I owe, and let's get the heck out of here. We did it, chat. Another big banner day. Thank you so much for the amazing support. I've gifted 15 members to the community just today. That's a lot of people, man. That's 90 people who can jump in and frickin' Stone Spire, Agent of Chaos. He can't resist stoking the fires, this guy. He's like, we're not going to sit here and stand for this. We're going to bump it one more time. Thank you so much, Stone Spire. Yeah, Spider-Man New Game Plus is just a zombie game. You just said it? What did I just say? What? What did I say? Listen, the notion that all PlayStation games are the same is only ever uttered by people that don't play them. Because if you play Returnal and then Ratchet and Clank and then Horizon Forbidden West and then God of War and then Spider-Man and then Ghost of Tsushima, I simply can't take you serious if you say that all those games feel the same. I think your ability to deduce differences in games is so poor, there's no sense in listening to you. It would be like you looking at a Da Vinci sculpture and then a Van Gogh painting and being like, yeah, well, it's all art. I wouldn't come to you for commentary on art. I'm not going to come to you for opinions on video games or take you serious when you do this broad brush sweeping parroting nonsense from Xbox pundits who don't like Sony. It's not true. It's not a logical, intellectually honest take. It's just propagandistic anti-Sony nonsense. It's like, it's not true. Those games I didn't name, Zombie, did I? Another gifted from Outsider. I appreciate it. We got to get out of here or we're all going to turn into zombies. It just, listen, a lot of the reasons I get clipped is someone comes in and says something dumb and we all react to it as if it's dumb because it is. Like, all PlayStation games are zombie games. And now it's like, it's so easy to get caught up in that. Like, I talked about how I don't attack people. I don't go back and attack people. And someone's like, well, you called somebody low IQ in your chat the other day. Well, if the shoe fits and you come in here and say dumb stuff, that's not the same as attacking people. People come in and say stuff and bait and say intentionally stupid things to try to make me look mean. It's like, listen, man, if you come in and say dumb stuff, we're going to tell you that you said something dumb. You know? That's just the way that it is. Came in here saying 2 + 2 = 22, we would probably tell you that you're being dumb. And that's not mean. It's not dumb. Sure. Go ahead. Go make content, videos, articles saying that all PlayStation games are zombie games. See how much agreement and respect you get from the industry. I'm getting the frick out of here. Because if I stay any longer, you're going to infect my brain, which ironically feels a lot like you're a zombie trying to infect us all, which was probably your game all along. Did my previous super chat ever go through? Thank you for the $2, Alex Mercer. Let me double check before we get out of here. I'm so sorry. Did I miss it? Oh, I did. I missed it. I am so sorry. Alex Mercer with a $5 super chat chip. Hey, man, I want to support you like my other favorite real gaming YouTubers. F the haters, love your community, and bring some good insight from work, by the way. I am so sorry that I missed that. I apologize. I hate when I do that. If you ever feel like I missed your super chat, call me out. Call me out. I can pull up fan funding and read it very quickly. That's my mistake, all right? Let's go over to Writer's Room. If you guys are at a $6 tier or higher, you can come with us, all right? Thanks so much for being a Reforge writer or higher, it's a Reforge member or higher. If you're at the $6 tier or higher, you can come to these Writers Room segments where we plan the next day. We kind of debrief on the day. If you're catching the tail end of the show about Xbox's future and the confusion surrounding it, and you got a gifted member, you can upgrade to the $6 member tier instead of staying at the $5 tier, and you'll get into those extra segments. No matter what, if you're a gifted member, you can get into the Discord, so be sure to do that. And thank you for another $5 super chat tip. Reforge, their future is not confusing. We need to understand that their future is expansion, just like the Game Pass model. Well, it's causing confusion because of stuff that people were saying, but I got to end the stream and go to writers. So we're going to get out of there. I'm going to make sure and change that thumbnail. Appreciate all the back and forth, all the super chat.